The Democratic National Convention is on again for tonight. Last night was the first night, and it was just an awful cringe fest that ended with this weird performance of this old, I guess, protest song. I don't know what the song is called. Do you guys know what the name of the song was? Do you know what the song was called?
I'm not sure.
No idea.
War, what is it good for?
No, it's like, stop, child, what's that sound? Or whatever. But
you know,
the production,
Dusty Springfield.
The production level was that of what I would say is like a high school freshman high school talent show. It was just, wow, epic cringe. Marianne Williamson said it was like watching a Marriott commercial, like binging a Marriott commercial. No policy, nothing substantive. And there were a bunch of even like resistant celebrities who were rolling their eyes like, oh, this is really bad. And they're doing it again tonight. So in honor of the DNC, we're doing an un-DNC week apparently. So joining me today, you want to introduce yourself, Carrie?
Hi, Tim. Yeah, my name is Carrie Smith. I am happy to be here for my coming out party as a reluctant deplorable.
Reluctant deplorable.
I guess you could call me that. Reluctant deplorable, yeah. I was just in Milwaukee, and I actually forgot that the DNC was happening. That's how little presence it had there. Nobody was talking about it.
Yeah, I actually wanted to do an un-DNC in Milwaukee. The idea was people like us, I guess, who used to be whatever liberal. I mean, I wasn't ever, jumping up and down and screaming for Democrats or anything like that. But I grew up in Chicago. I voted for Obama the first time. And so, I wanted to put on an event, and it kind of just accidentally came together. So you're here. You're liberals for Trump, basically.
Yeah.
Like you wrote this article saying liberal voting for Trump. And we were talking a little bit earlier. You're, I guess, a reformed SJW.
Yeah. So my transformation started with that. I was an SJW for about 20 years. And I was one of the true believers. I was in it because I really believed this was the way to make a better world and to end racism and sexism. And I started walking away from that about 4 years ago. So 2016, like a little before, but mostly after the election. I know there are people, I've seen people in the comments who say, oh, you're a slow learner. It took you 2 decades to wake up. But when you're indoctrinated into something that strongly and it functions almost as your religion and your sense of moral good, your moral compass, it's sometimes hard to see it for what it is. So it took me a very long time to realize it is racism.
Oh, totally. I'm just generally like a nihilistic misanthrope, so I just hate everybody all the time. I'm half kidding. So, so Carrie's joining us tonight, and then tomorrow, Jack Murphy's coming down. He wrote the book, Democrats Deplorable, and that's really cool. And then we have, I don't know if I should just say it. I guess
why not?
Brandon Strock's coming on Friday.
Yes, that's awesome.
So he's doing his big walkaway rally, and I was like, bro, come on the show. And he said for sure. So hopefully, I don't want to overhype everything. That's why I'm careful. Normally, don't shout anybody out necessarily. But this whole week, I guess it's the DNC, and in my opinion, there's way more people who are leaving the left than the other way around.
Yeah, I know a ton of liberals and progressives who have walked away. So in the past 4 years, and I know some people have said, "Well, Carrie, your experience is such that those are the people you would meet. So to use your anecdotal experiences is not really accurate." But at the same time, I've tried to find the people who've left the Republican Party and gone over to the left, and I haven't met those people. I don't know who they are.
Me neither.
But I know a ton of liberals, progressives, some of whom are going to vote Trump but are going to stay quiet about it. Some of whom are getting over their fear, like me. If you're a person who feels compelled to just say what is true and not keep it a secret, then some of those people are starting to get over their fear and just come out. And that's part of the reason I wrote the piece, is I wanted to say, so many people have their identity tied up in their political opinions. And so that I know that there are some people who are afraid, who are really thinking, well, if I vote for Trump, does that mean I'm not a liberal anymore? Or does that mean I'm not a progressive anymore? And they're so tied to that identity of being a liberal. Yeah. No, it doesn't, because the Democratic Party is not liberal anymore.
I don't think they're anything.
They're not liberal or conservative. They're authoritarians.
Oh, they're totally authoritarian.
Yeah.
But I think it's based out of their desperation to just say or do whatever to gain power.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all that's left, right? So we'll dive into this. I actually want to start with a news story as per usual, because we got this really creepy story that just came out today, and it's huge news. If you have not already, please hit that like button. You can help support the show, and hop in the super chat if you'd like to ask any questions. At about 9:30 or so, we'll jump over questions. And don't forget to subscribe. We do the show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. We got a bunch of really awesome guests lined up for the next several weeks. This is crazy. We got a ton of people coming down. It's going to be epic. We got some Republican candidates who are going to be joining. So I'm really, really excited for this. Here's what I want to do. I want to jump to the first story, and I want to talk about the Democratic Party cringe fest. But this is beyond just regular old cringe. So I did my main segment today on my main channel, talking about just how cringy it was. Celebrities coming out saying the DNC, oof, like Marianne Williamson, like I mentioned, and that really weird performance. I'm not trying to be mean. I don't try to drag people, but this dude dancing and he's doing the shuffle dance, and I'm just like, wow.
Kinky Boots, that guy.
Is that who it is?
Yeah, I think that's who it was. But it looked like an SNL sketch.
I know, it did.
It didn't look real.
Wow.
It looked like a David Pumpkins.
Like they were making fun of themselves.
Yes.
How weird is this? But we actually have a very, very serious story to open with. I'm reticent to even get into this. This is dark stuff. All right. So I hope you guys are ready. Check this out. Tonight, Bill Clinton's speaking tonight, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I've seen a bunch of tweets talking about Bill Clinton speaking tonight to the DNC. And this story came out at the same time. Exclusive. This is from the Daily Mail. Would you mind giving it a crack? Bill Clinton leans back and smiles while receiving a neck massage from an Epstein victim. So I'm not going to look. This is just a photo. And this is the news that's coming out right now. Bill Clinton, who is in, I guess, 26 flight logs with Epstein. Mm-hmm. A photo was just released of one of their trips, and one of Epstein's victims is seen giving Bill Clinton a massage. I'm not going to pretend like this image comes out of some dark, nefarious, island excursion, because what I believe this is, they say that this was when they were going on their world tour or whatever, the AIDS relief thing to Africa. But what it does show is that Bill Clinton was literally connected to the things that Epstein was doing. And what's really scary to me about this photo is that it just looks like a woman giving a dude a massage.
Yeah.
And then once you learn the context, you're like, whoa, a former president of the United States receiving a massage from a trafficking victim of one of the most notorious, I just call them nasty guys, man, like truly evil and despicable people. I bring this up not necessarily to go into, the Epstein stuff, but for, obviously we are a bit, because we're still waiting to see what happens with Maxwell and all that stuff. But to talk about the Democratic convention, the authoritarianism, and I guess we can kind of opine on this, because you were just mentioning the Democrats have become authoritarian.
Yeah.
So I guess I would ask you, as, you were a Democrat, SJW, whatever.
Yeah, I was a lifelong Democrat. I did vote for my first Republican in 2018. I voted for Ted Cruz because, much like Trump in this case, I felt he was the most liberal person running. And I felt Beto O'Rourke was, again, an identitarian authoritarian, and I couldn't vote for someone like that. He didn't support free speech. He was pushing my old belief system, my old ideology, which is not liberalism. Social justice ideology is not liberalism.
No, of course not. It's authoritarian, I don't know, Marxism?
Well, it's born from Marxism. It has roots in Marxism, but the best way I've learned to describe it for people is that if you think of Marxism said the best way to look at the world essentially is as a competition for power as a competition for wealth between class groups. So this new kind of Marxism, this identity Marxism, says the best way to look at the world is as a competition for power between identity groups. So instead
sounds like racism.
Yeah, but they want to do the same thing. They want to redistribute power the way that Marxists of old wanted to redistribute wealth.
Right.
But it's just an evolved, not as in better, but it's evolved as in a mutated kind of Marxism.
I wanted to highlight this story because the dude's speaking at the DNC. I mean, that's the gist of the story. There's not much to it. We know that, Clinton was flying on this plane, but I think there's something inherently wrong with the Democratic Party at this point. Not to say that Republicans are clean,
right.
But the DNC right now is this weird mishmash of people who are of seemingly no conscience, right?
I think they've become unmoored from principles.
Yeah. Did they ever? When was the last time you felt they had principles?
This is a tough question for me, Tim, because looking back, I can't tell how much I've changed, and that skews my perception now. And I often ask myself this, like, is it that the Democratic Party changed and then I changed alongside it? Or is it that I changed and I can't see that it was always like this?
The Democratic Party definitely changed.
Okay.
But people like Bill Clinton have been doing really awful things for a long time and getting away with it. So I think where we go from here that's really interesting with your history and this is that there's always been this kind of dark element in politics in general. Bill Clinton's been accused. He's paid out settlements, I guess, to people like
Juanita brought her.
He paid her a settlement, or was it?
I can't remember if he paid her a settlement or not.
Because I know
probably not, because she keeps talking.
Yeah, you want to look that up?
Yeah, I'm going to check it out right now.
Because the Clintons paid out somebody, I'm pretty sure. But so Bill Clinton's been a kind of a bad dude for a long time. Yeah. But when you look at policy wise, I think what we actually see when you realize there's this. A lot of people like to look back and romanticize the left me, the Democrats left me. I think that's not true. I think there was a period where the Democrats, as a party that just panders, were pandering to a large group of people that were ideologically aligned and was relatively close to where the Republicans were. As the progressives started to move into the Democratic Party, they kept trying to pander, and now they're spread super thin, desperately trying to pander to everybody. That says to me, how is it that you can have someone like Bill Clinton speaking at this event when seemingly by their own ideology, he is a patriarchal misogynist and all these really awful things? They can screech about Brett Kavanaugh because some woman vaguely remembers an incident where he threw her on the bed. Can't even remember when or how it happened. But Bill Clinton, who's got real accusers and all this really awful stuff, is totally A-okay. I look at the party today. They're entertaining this guy. So did the party really change? I kind of don't think so. I think they're just pandering to a different group of people.
I think there might be something to that. I mean, my mind immediately goes to that's a philosophical question, because I think that's what happens when you put ideology or party or tribe or something or anything above principles.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have universal principles that you apply across the board, even when it's hurts your ideology or hurts your party, then you don't really stand for anything. You'll go with whichever the way the wind blows.
Right. I remember a bunch of videos have come out showing, Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer, Pelosi, all these Democrats, 12 or so years ago, talking about the need for border security and immigration reform. There's some article I pulled up recently. It's from 2012, where the Democrats were talking about pushing a payroll tax cut and how it was a great idea for everybody, a huge win for Obama. And today it's like Trump is trying to gut Social Security. So I see that and I'm like, man, it looks like they've changed, right? The Democrats have changed. And then I'm kind of like, no, maybe they didn't care about that back then either.
Yeah,
maybe we look back and we're like, see, that made sense, but this doesn't. And it's like, wait a minute. They've always just been saying whatever they think we want to hear. I'm sure it's relatively true for a lot of these, old establishment Republicans, but many of them are fleeing and joining the Democrats as never-Trumpers. They're like the one group of people, I guess, that have left the right to join the left. Yeah. They have wealth,
Yeah. Well, you're making me think of something I said to you earlier, which is that this is pretty naive, but it wasn't until recently that my podcast partner, Carter, he told me, I guess I always thought if you want to get ahead in politics or anything, you behave like a good person. You put on the best version of yourself, and you are the best version of yourself, and you will win friends, and you will move ahead, and the better you are, kind of you rise to the top. And he sort of pointed out to me, no, what happens is that if you think about it, probably a lot of people who have enough money or power to help you, they'll want to have something dirty on you to hold over you to make sure they can control you. Right. So maybe it's the worst people who rise to the top in politics.
It is.
So
you know what I was thinking though with Trump? I mean, you find yourself as what did you call it? Reluctant deplorable?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I think there's a lot of people who have proudly switched, and there are a lot of people who've been like, I guess I'll switch.
Yeah. Right?
So I don't know. I forgot what I was going for on this one.
That's okay.
But I don't know. Do you want to just take it?
Well, being a reluctant deplorable. Well, somebody in the comments on the post you did today was saying, I guess this is enough to forgive Trump's warts. You're trying to defend Trump's warts or forgive his warts. No, I'm not. I have no interest in defending Trump's warts or whatever, as long as he doesn't have a wart called racist, sexist, Marxist authoritarianism, and he doesn't. So
I remember now.
Okay.
See, hey, don't get mad at me, those listening. I work like 16 hours a day every day.
It's true.
Yeah, I'm probably.
I saw you work today. You have a crazy schedule.
My brain's probably gonna explode. Okay, so what I was gonna say is, I started trailing off into you being a Trump supporter and all that stuff. But what I was gonna say in response to what you had just said, Trump to me feels like the YouTuber of politics. You like that?
I love it.
But do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Like YouTubers came out and they were very much authentic personalities. It was like all of a sudden these vlogs started to emerge of people just filming themselves with their phone, and people loved watching it because it was real. And everything we got from the media and from politicians in our whole lives has always been plastic.
Yeah.
You know what I can't stand more than anything is like something will happen in the world, oil spill, and you know what they're gonna say. You know exactly what they're gonna say before they say it.
Before they say it.
It was a terrible accident. We're so sorry, everybody. And you're like, shut up. You're lying. Somebody, cut a corner. You're trying to save money. Just we get it. It's BS. Trump comes out and he's got no filter, and people go, finally. He's like the internet's generation, this authentic personality, and a lot of people don't like it. But to be fair, he has absolutely chilled out over the past year or so. I mean, this year he's been very calm and much better tempered, I would say.
You said that earlier, and I hadn't considered that before, but I think you might be right.
For me, that's big. I've often said of the policy things I didn't like, missile strike in Syria, there's a lot of foreign policy stuff. He's up drone strikes. He's actually reversed course. He started doing a bunch of really good things, and I'm sitting here going like, he's actually, I used to say, Trump's bad. He's not that bad, because like the media would really twist it.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, Trump's not that bad. He's actually kind of okay.
He's kind of okay.
He's kind of okay.
Yeah.
And
that's very triggering to them.
I think I'm actually getting to, very, very soon. We'll see how it plays out. And it's the media's fault for sure. I'm probably going to get to the point where I'm like, Trump's pretty cool, because I'm looking at him. And I had a self-reflective moment because somebody commented in one of our shows saying, you often complain about Trump's demeanor and his professionalism. What would you prefer? And so I sat and I was like, that's a good question. I thought about it and I'm like, he hasn't really had any of those moments where he was, actually earlier this year he had the Scarborough thing, where he was talking about Scarborough's intern from MSNBC.
I think I missed that, but isn't he always doing that?
But that's kind of the stuff I don't like.
Okay, yeah.
But he's definitely improved. You watch his press conferences and he's like, thank you for your question. Thank you very much. And I was like, wow. He was the guy who was like, you are fake news. You are fake,
See, I had moved far enough away from the legacy media, or at least realizing what liars they are, that I got to a place by the time he told Jim Acosta what fake news he was, I was like, okay, this is one thing he's doing that I like.
Look.
Yeah.
I got to go to the White House for his big social media summit thing.
Oh yeah.
He's a funny guy. He's an excellent entertainer. And that's kind of the point I'm making, because like when I'm there and I'm watching this, for me it's basically, I look at a politician and I'm like, you can be all smiles. Everyone loved Obama on the left because he was a celebrity. Mm-hmm. I'm not falling for that game again. Trump can stand up there and he can make jokes and make me laugh. I want to hear some tangibles. Then he started talking about things I liked. He crossed into the DMZ, and the North Korea South Korea thing is very relevant to my family, because I have literally I'm Korean and I have family that goes back to North Korea. I'll never get to go visit those places. No. So seeing Trump do that with no security, walking into North Korea, I was just like, I'm sitting in my chair, I'm clapping. I'm like, that is awesome. He had no security. These people on the left, they don't get it. They could have snatched him up. They could have killed him. And what would we do? Go to war or something? Trump did that. I respect that. It may be symbolic, but whatever. I see now, I've known this for a while. It's like the Democrats and the establishment right now, the media, it's all this facade. It's all make-believe.
Totally.
It's the fake news. They're desperately trying to hold the mask over their face. And Trump has been ripping it off.
He's been pulling off. He's like, you said he's the YouTuber of politicians. I've heard the wrestler analogy before too. He's the wrestler, and he kind of
literally isn't.
But he just sort of points out that it is all a performance. It always was, and he's so over the top that you suddenly realize you're in a wrestling ring because there's a guy with a big foam finger waving it. That's Trump. You're like, oh, this is all.
I've been to so many of his rallies. When he was running the first time, I actually covered a bunch of his rallies, went down, met people, and I saw the escalation of violence. It was really crazy for me. And this probably contributed to, a lot of people say Tim Pool is like the world's slowest red pill or whatever.
They say that stuff about me, or they used to. Don't worry about that.
No, I don't
Okay.
care. It's like, listen, I do my research all day, every day. My opinions and my policy ideas and the things I support don't change because people are nice or mean to me.
Yeah.
But it does, there's an influence on, people being nice and mean contribute to the fact that some people will never have access to certain information. If the left won't allow a conversation, you'll never hear what they have to say. So I remember, for me, there was a big moment when I filmed. This is crazy. I filmed a guy whack a Trump supporter in the back of the head with a bag of something, and he's bleeding. I film it. I'm watching these people just beat the crap out of these Trump supporters. I worked for this company, Fusion, and they were super excited about it. We got a request for Fox News, and they said, Tim, go on Fox News. The employees of the company got mad at me after the fact for doing it. And they were like, why would you go on Fox News? And I was like, they told me to. I don't know. Like, I'm a journalist, I guess. I covered it, and a news outlet asked me to speak about it. But when I started telling them, they were like, who are these people that were attacking Trump supporters? And I was like, oh, it was Bernie supporters. And they were like, no, it wasn't. No, it was. It was Bernie supporters. And some of these people were like, how do you know they were Bernie supporters? One of the guys was wearing a Bernie shirt.
Oh my gosh.
Well, just one guy with a Bernie shirt. Somebody was waving a Bernie flag.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, you're lying. They're not. And what do you mean? I don't care. Like, at the time, I was actually for Bernie.
Yeah.
They didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to hear it.
That was that like around 2015 maybe?
I'm pretty sure it was the San Jose rally. There's a very famous video. It's got like 1 million something hits.
Okay, this is a weird small world moment. Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
So when I first started going down like the path that I'm on, leaving the social justice left, people always ask, well, what happened? It's not some magic thing where I just wake up the next day. There wasn't some, one book or one video or one thing, but there were several things. And one of the first things that happened was that I went down a rabbit hole of videos of Trump supporters being attacked by people who were supposedly on my side, by supposed liberals and progressives. And they made me cry. And one was that San Jose video. And I had no idea you filmed that.
Was it the guy with the yellow polo?
Yes.
That was
and
me.
he was bloody.
He's bleeding. And then I asked him what happened. He's like, I don't know. A guy hit me. I saw him walking out of the rally, and the crowd started screaming and throwing stuff. And I just knew, I'm like, I've seen this. I know what happens next. So I started filming. And the dude, like, I don't know if he didn't know or he's just very brave. It was him and like another guy. They just kept walking, minding their own business. Yeah. Didn't say anything, didn't do anything.
But he was bleeding.
Bleeding. Yeah, pretty bad. Yeah. And I was just like, I gotta ask this guy what happened. Why is he's like, I don't know. I was like, I came out, I was yelling, Trump, Trump, Trump. And then all of a sudden these people started attacking me. There were some guys in Anaheim. It was an older guy and two younger guys, and they were Trump supporters. This was a little bit later on. They told me that they had initially supported Bernie Sanders because of his trade policy. He opposed the TPP, he opposed NAFTA. But when Hillary Clinton won, they said, the next best choice is Donald Trump. They got attacked. And I watched the same thing. This is at Anaheim, just across the street from like Disneyland or whatever. I don't know, Disney World, whichever one it is. And they chased these guys like a mile, stole their hats, were hitting them, shoving them. And I watched all that stuff happen. None of these lefties, these Bernie people wanted to hear it. They would get so triggered the moment I would say the violence needs to stop. Even Bernie Sanders himself had to yell, stop the violence.
Yeah.
But they still, they put it on Trump when it's his supporters getting attacked.
Yeah. And that blew my mind because as someone who was deeply, ensconced in my own SJW echo chamber, I had just been fed this narrative that the violence was, that Trump supporters were violent and that their rallies were violent. And I believed all this stuff without seeing evidence of it. I just believed it. So that YouTube rabbit hole I went down then, I doubt that would happen today. I bet they've changed the algorithm to such a degree that I couldn't find video after video. I don't even remember why I clicked on the first one, but after it, there was video after video. There was the girl that was egged, but the one that
was San Jose. That was the same
San
place.
Jose also.
Yep.
And that just, it shook me because it was visual evidence of the opposite narrative, and I didn't know any of that had been happening.
So I'm, covering these stories. I see it happening in real time, and then I see the mainstream media does not reflect reality.
No, not at all.
I actually had the news company I worked for tell me, side with the audience. And I said, who's the audience? Young progressives.
So you were working for Fusion?
Yep.
Okay, here's another small moment. I was pitching a TV show, an SJW comedy show in 2015 at that network.
Fusion.
Yes.
I was there.
And on the whiteboard, I walked in and I remember, it may have been 2014. It was before I started leaving the cult, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I walked in and I was so excited that because their whiteboard was all social justice. It basically, I'd walked into a critical race theory class in college.
It had to be 2015.
Probably 2015. Yeah.
Because when they pitched me, so for those that aren't familiar, this is an ABC News Univision joint venture. Mm-hmm. When they pitched me, they said, we want to be like Vice. And they had big posters on the walls that said, we will not be partisan. We will be, different. We will be honest. And then something happened about 7 months in where a switch got flicked. And they replaced the editor-in-chief, brought on an SJW, who all of a sudden was like, I kid you not, they brought in a guy, and I think this persona was totally fake. I think it was a money opportunity because this guy, one day, overnight, changed his Twitter banner to "Down with Whiteness."
Oh, I believe that.
And when I saw that, I was like, whoa, dude, like, how can you do that? That's racist. So they actually had an event where they were going to be interviewing presidential politicians, and they told me I was too white to be involved. I kid you not. And I'm like, I told the president, I was like, well, you know that I'm second generation mixed race, right? I was like, I think I totally fits. It's a good narrative. And he goes, nah, I'm sorry, man. Like, they're super racist. It's in the contract. You look too white, dude. I was like, are you kidding me? And I actually contemplated a lawsuit. No joke.
Yeah, you should, because that's racist.
It's beyond. It's a violation of civil rights law.
Yeah.
I was told straight up by the president I was too white to be involved in this presidential forum.
That's amazing.
No kidding. And I said that I'm literally like a product of civil rights law. Like my family experienced this. Doesn't matter the way you look. And that's one of the things that's really, really triggered me about the SJW left and their ideologies, specifically like when the ACLU, for instance, says that it's okay to discriminate based on race at these universities, particularly against Asians. What regular people don't realize is that when they say Asian, they mean Indians, Chinese, Koreans, Japanese, Vietnamese, Laotian, Filipino, Malaysian, Singapore, all of these countries, which are vastly different levels of wealth, vastly different countries, different cultures, different religions, they say it's one thing. And so what happens is they're quite literally saying to, here's what I tell these SJWs. If you agree, and even my friends who are like very progressive, if you agree with that policy of affirmative action, then when it comes time, I want you to look into the eyes of that child, that Asian child, and say, I'm sorry, honey, you don't get to go to the Ivy League because you look too much like that person. Yeah. And that's the only reason, no matter how hard they work, they look wrong. So then what? Are we going to get people who are just going to get crazy cosmetic surgeries to try and change their appearance to pretend they're not really, a certain race? To me, that's just, it's all been absolutely despicable.
Yes.
So, I wouldn't.
Look at the way they picked their VP candidate. Okay, so
totally.
We've known for a long time that again, slow learner here. It took me a while, but some of you have known for a long time that they are racist and sexist. But now they're openly telling us. Like, we knew that Joe Biden was going to pick, or whoever is behind Joe Biden was going to pick someone who is a woman of color. But he came out and told us that. He's honest about it. And I heard somebody saying, and forgive me, I forget who it was, but somebody was talking about, can you imagine if the CEO of your company said, we're going to be hiring second in command here, and I don't know who it's going to be, send in your resumes, but it will be a woman of color. And
they
what?
Do this.
You're just not going to look at resumes from anyone else? Are you kidding me?
And that's to me is insane.
Yeah.
Look, I recognize.
Well, can I say one more thing about that? Of course. It's so offensive and it's so condescending and towards women and towards people of color, because look, if I get a job, I don't want to be denied anything because of my sex, and I don't want to be given it because of my sex. And if I was Kamala Harris, I'd be like, screw you. You just told everyone you didn't pick me from among the best people. You basically said, I'm picking from this small demographic and you're the best in that demographic. Screw you, Joe Biden.
Well, hold on a second.
Okay.
If I'm willing to bet, especially considering they're Democrats, and again, I am not trying to give a free pass to Republicans. They just don't do anything right now, and they're not really, I don't know. Here's the point. If Joe Biden walks up to Kamala and he goes, Look, listen here, fat. We're going to make you the VP, and you're not going to win, and it has nothing to do with your qualifications. Actually, I think you're awful, but you'll be rich afterwards, and that's it. She's gonna write a book. First, Black Indian, vice president candidate. the hurdles she faced, joining. She's now, I believe, the third woman to be on a VP as a ticket. She's going to write a book afterwards. She's going to do a book tour, and she's going to get paid. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, but what an empty life. I mean, not just her. I'm just saying so many people in general. Why are you living a life for that? What are you living for?
I agree.
Just a book and some money, and
Power.
what do you stand for? Nothing.
I've met people like this, and this was maybe about 10 years ago. I had this local real estate developer in Chicago trying to use me because I was a young hip skateboarder. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to have some kind of inroad with a community of young people to convince them of it was a very much like an 80s movie plot line. He wanted to develop a bunch of condos and gentrify the neighborhood, but he needed the kids on his side.
I think I've seen this movie.
Right. He invited me to a party, and it was a bunch of Illinois Democrat politicians. And they all basically said the same thing. One of two things. Somebody's got to work at McDonald's, right? The idea generally just let poor people be poor, don't worry about their wages, and someone's going to do it, so so be it. It was a very elitist and defeatist kind of idea. But the other one was they told me, stop worrying about any of this and just get rich. And I was like, because the conversations we were having was like making the community better, improving things, helping people strive to become better, to reach new heights, not just to be a burger flipper, but to be the manager of McDonald's. And I had this guy look at me and he shook his head and he goes, just get the money and get out.
Really?
That was the attitude they all had.
Wow. That's
And it was
so
like on a
empty.
rooftop party, everyone's drinking fancy stuff. And I'm like, some guy came in and asked me if I wanted to go hang out and schmooze and have drinks. And I was like in my early 20s and I'm like, I'm down. And it was like not my jam. And that's why I'm like relatively reclusive in that sense. I like to do my thing. I don't have a tribe. After I felt betrayed by Obama. He was talking about removing troops in the Middle East. The whole war was wrong. It was mistakes. It was fake news that got us involved. And then Obama, what does he do? The first thing he does, one of the first things, is a drone strike on a small village, killing women and children. And so I was like, that was like someone stabbed me in the heart emotionally. Because I felt like I'm the one who helped him do it. These horrible things that are being done overseas. And he looked me in the eye and says, don't worry, we're going to end this. And I was like, okay, here's my support. Then he laughed and then he dropped the bomb. And I was just like, I was mad. And that cut me off. I was like, I don't care about this. I don't care about these people. No, I don't believe any of this stuff. Everybody's lying and I'm over it.
Yeah.
And then I saw the bad stuff Obama was doing,
So you paid attention, though. I was the kind who didn't. So when Bush was president, I went to every anti-war march. I knew the media was lying. I watched them sell the lie, CNN. That was when I first learned the media. It's like Orwell, Ministry of Truth. But I paid attention because I hated Bush so much. And then when Obama won, I didn't pay attention anymore.
Yep.
I wasn't one of those people who saw that he didn't. In fact, I voted for him twice.
And this, I totally get it. I see this. Mm-hmm. All of these people right now are waking up to the things that, I'm doing air quotes here, Trump is doing. Or I should say Trump is, air quote, doing. Mm-hmm. But put the quotes around the word doing because Obama started some of these things.
Yes.
The kids in cages.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's who do you think built them? I lived down there. I lived relatively close to Homestead in Miami where they were having these detention centers. And this was under Obama, not under Trump. And it was just a thing that was there.
Yeah.
But now it's Trump. And so I would ask my friends, my progressive friends, they're still to this day, some of them have gotten so bad, it's kind of scary. It feels like they've become possessed.
Yes, I use that word a lot. Actually, I think I heard Jordan Peterson using that word, and it made sense to me. I think people can become possessed by emotion or possessed by ideology. When there's something animating them and they're not thinking critically anymore. And it's almost like, well, when Peterson talks about Carl Jung and saying that, people don't have ideas have people. But I absolutely believe that when it comes to ideology. I think of ideology as a living, breathing thing. So when I call my old belief system a cult, people say, oh, well, it doesn't fit all the cult characteristics. It fits most of them. It does not have a charismatic leader. I give you that. But that's because I view it as this living thing. It's almost like a school of fish.
It's a religion.
It moves together. It's a religion. And there's not like one figurehead at the front of it. There's a lot of different high priests of the movement if
Yeah.
you will, like Robin DiAngelo.
Totally. She's an
But-
avowed racist.
Yeah, she admits it.
Yeah, she says. So when did the left start taking their cues from overt racists? And why should so? When I say my friends are possessed, I have a friend who I consider to be a good friend, and she's just, in my opinion, gone.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to even talk to her anymore. I see the things she posts online. It's all conspiracy theories, posting photos of mailboxes in like dumpsters, and I'm like, what happened? That's not real life. And when I try and send a message like, hey, just so you know, like that mailbox thing, here's an article. And the response is, I have no idea what you're talking about. This is crazy. How could you support Trump? And I'm like, I just said the mailbox thing wasn't true. Calm down. But it's almost like there's no, it's a religion.
It's a religion. And also, I was talking about this with Lydia earlier.
Yeah.
We were both saying, I don't think a lot of the people who get possessed by it, I don't think they have good historical context. So they don't actually know what it is that they're preaching. They think these are original ideas. They think social justice is this new progressive thing. No. It has roots, very old roots in Marxism, and we know what happens when this ideology plays out. We know
Right.
where it goes. They don't have that. And they also have like you're talking about, she's living in a different world. She's
Yeah.
posting these crazy conspiracy theories. Have they read any Orwell recently? I'm not talking about in childhood. Like read
I don't think they
1984
read.
now.
I don't think they read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like now they're saying 2 + 2 is 5.
Yeah,
It
I've
was
seen
literally not it's not the exact same, but it's similar. It's 1984.
Yeah.
That the party would tell you that 2 + 2 is 5, and you had to believe it. You
Yeah.
had to. And the scary thing was maybe it was true. That's what's one of the passages. They're literally now arguing 2 + 2 = 5.
Yeah.
Like they're arguing circumstances in which it can. I understand the general argument they're trying to put forward that, it's important to try and expand your view and your perception of reality. But it's very common. This tactic is just meant to confuse and break down systems so that you can't control them anymore.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's meant to confuse. That's a great way of putting it. Orwell talked about how, and I'm going to mangle the quote, but basically how people use superfluous language to try and hide the fact that they're not really saying anything. He says it's like they're squirting out ink like a cuttlefish.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of these so-called pseudo-intellectuals who use, they bank on the fact that they're hoping that you'll think, well, I guess I'm not smart enough to get this.
Do you remember there was a debate with Michael Eric Dyson?
And Jordan Peterson?
Yes. Do you remember all the things that he said?
Yes.
And none of it meant anything.
You just hit the nail on the head. And that's when Michael Eric Dyson went on my worst people in the
Yes.
world list.
I went to the library and I found one of his books and I was like, the title of the book was like Speaking Clearly, and I was like, this is a complete misnomer. This is wrong. This is complete
But that's
wrong
perfectly
advertising.
named because that's what they do. Look, they call it
Yeah.
Antifa, anti-fascist. Oh, I guess it's
Exactly.
against fascism, huh?
Sure, yeah, that's all it means.
It works on low engagement and low. What's the right word I'm trying to say? I don't want to say stupid because smart people get roped up in this stuff too.
Low information.
Low
perhaps.
information, like low inquisitivity.
Right.
You
They're
know,
just
they're
not curious.
not curious.
Anti-curious.
So you hear about a group called the anti-fascists, and they immediately are like, oh. And then they're going around beating random people and old ladies, and it's just like...
They're behaving like fascists, guys.
Yeah, quite
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
Well, and I always try to make the distinction, too, because invariably Antifa starts screeching, they did it, they claimed. I had a guy in New York at a protest yell at me. I was covering this protest, and they was like, you claimed Antifa was fascist. And I was like, no, I didn't. I would never do that. Antifa is progressive. They're not traditionalist.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, so don't put that on me. No, you're authoritarian extremists. And then
Well,
they're like, oh, hey, wait a minute.
I say you behave like a fascist. That doesn't mean...
Right.
You
No,
can
I'm
behave-
not,
yeah.
I'm not putting it on you. I'm putting it like
Yeah.
on these guys. It's like, I have no problem letting them have that one. When they're like, we're not fascists, you are correct. You're authoritarian communist extremists.
Yes.
And then they're like, well,
Maybe.
maybe. As long as you're not calling us a fascist. No, you're
Yeah, names are everything, man.
yeah.
Well,
It-
they do the same thing with now. I'm sure you've seen it. The thing they're pushing now is this word anti-racism. They say it's not enough to be not racist. You have to be anti-racist. Okay.
Actively anti-racist.
Well, what does anti-racist mean? It means racist. And
Yes.
look at what they mean when they say anti-racist. They mean you must treat people differently and judge them on the basis of race. Okay, what is that? That's racism, guys. Like
This is how they do it.
Yeah.
You know, Black Lives Matter. Well, who could disagree with that?
Yes.
Like any good liberal or conservative, any American. I mean, you could go back to the civil rights era and find that a small proportion of people would be willing to publicly say they didn't. They would they try to be politically correct and say, well, you know, separate but equal, right? Even back then, they were careful about questioning the value of life, particularly religious people. Today, we've progressed so far beyond the racist past. Mind you, a lot of it was from the Democrats, the Klan, Jim Crow, and all the stuff. And I look back in the past and I say, you know what? We did a really good job of getting rid of all these really awful things. Today, we all agree, like life in general, and it matters. And I understand what they mean when they say it. But then when they go around smashing, burning, beating people, and it's mostly white people doing it,
Yeah.
I'm like, you see, now you're just using that so that if we question you, we get attacked.
Yeah.
The media finds an easy path. So when I mention like my friend is possessed, they don't read the news. They get their news from memes like Occupy Democrats and other just, garbage meme factories on Facebook. And so when I send them something, they like send me a meme and I say, this is a cartoon of like a giraffe eating a pine cone. I have no idea what this means, you know? And I'm like, here's an article from the New York Times. And then they're like, here's a picture of a, you know.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, that's.
I'm sorry I'm laughing, but that's true. I respond on Twitter. I'm like, oh, are we in the meme portion of the argument already?
Yes.
Seriously, we jump fast to the end.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of tribalism.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons you mentioned earlier, like you have friends who are scared that if they vote for Trump, they'll no longer be seen as liberal.
Yeah.
And I think it's because their tribalism is survival. It's a survival mechanism.
Absolutely.
So if you've got people who don't have the independence, the self-esteem to live on their own, they're very likely going to just do whatever the tribe says. And just many of them will believe it because it's the safe bet, just to go with the flow and hope the collective protects you.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of people, it's no surprise that it's, conservatives, individualists, personal responsibility, who challenge that narrative. I think what's happening now is the unifying force between what brings liberals over to conservatives is the true liberals, like the actual word liberal, classical liberalism, not, this whatever mainstream is. It's individualism. It's
Yes.
the right of free expression, freedom of speech, individual rights, liberty.
Individualism is the antidote to collectivism, whether that collectivism is racism or sexism, and that's the only thing that's ever pushed it back. And now we're moving away from that in the name, and they're saying it's for this good cause, and they used to not openly, so they used to hide the fact that they were opposed to individualism, but the ideology is in a new phase now. In the past 2 months or so, it's really ramped up, and I'm sure you've seen it's all the major corporations are speaking it. McDonald's is telling me about racial justice.
Right,
Like, Dom,
seriously.
Just give me a cheeseburger.
right. They're all speaking it. It's in churches. It's in hobby groups. It's in your kid's school. There's a book called Anti-Racism Baby. It's teaching babies. But it's everywhere now. And it's, oh man, I'm losing my train of thought about it ramping up. What were you saying right before that?
I don't remember.
Oh,
you
wow.
got me laughing. And
I got
now
you laughing. I'm sorry.
It's
Yeah.
It's anti-racism baby in schools. Did you see the leaked curriculum from this?
Oh, I've seen so much leaked curriculum in the past few years. Tell me which one.
It's this particular math problem I've mentioned probably several times now,
Yeah.
but where we used to do math problems that were like, if a farmer has, 17,000 apples and his warehouse can hold 13,000, what percentage will rot? There was a math problem. It was like, if the police, stop and detain, 10,002 white people, but 3,400 black people, what percentage of black people are being detained by the police?
Right.
And it's like, what are you putting in this math problem? That has nothing to do with teaching kids math. We do apples and
they're slipping that in.
yes, it's through the side. So the actual problem is, just a regular math problem, but
Yeah.
they're seeding all this stuff, and it is creepy.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, part of what's happened in the past 2 months is also that, and I was talking about this with you earlier, Lydia, or maybe with Tiffany, but so there used to be on social media, there was this group of people who they weren't social justice evangelists like I was. They weren't actively preaching it, but they had sort of casually accepted a lot of the tenets of the ideology.
Yeah.
And those people really didn't preach it or push it or anything. And a lot of them, for example, were the kind of women who would do just like a lot of selfies or look how great my family life is. I have the perfect family. Look at all my kids. My life's awesome. Keeping up with the Joneses on social media, right?
Yeah.
A lot of those basic normies have been activated. And I don't know if you've noticed, but in the past 2 months, a lot of those people who used to post just selfies and look at my great life are suddenly posting constant social justice stuff.
Yep.
And it's almost like sleeper cells. They got turned on. I think of it that way. Yeah, they had tacitly accepted some of the premises of the belief system. They had soaked it up by osmosis. And then in the past 2 months, the belief system said, okay, now you're going to prove that you're in this cult.
That is really interesting because I know that you are coming from a leftward position.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing the exact opposite with some of my Facebook friends. Like
Oh,
I have
really?
I have a few lady friends who I've known for multiple years. I used to work with them, and they are turning more and more conservative. And I was like, I never would have expected this from like my crystal collecting hippie friend.
Oh,
Both of them
wow.
are. Yeah, my crystal collecting hippie friends are turning conservative, and I'm like, what is going on here? People are being more and more upfront with their politics.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's happening or if it's good or bad.
I think that's a response to what I was talking about, which is now it's become so dominant. Maybe you've got this reaction starting to happen, or people are waking up, or people, like I said, are leaving the left because it's become almost too much.
Are you familiar with Ryan Long, the comedian?
Yes, I
He
saw
did
his
that.
really funny.
He's got the super viral woke and racist guys.
Yes,
and they
yes.
get along on everything. He has another one where it's left and right, and they're trying to pick basketball teams.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
It's so good. It's another really good one. The left-wing guy is just constantly yelling and insulting, and he's like, what are you doing? He's like, you're a racist. I'm gonna take a picture. I'm taking your picture. And then the one guy goes, my boss just called me. I got fired. And then the dude on the right goes, just play with me, man. I don't care. And they're like, I'm gonna go play with this guy. The dude walks over, and the guy with the right wing shirt goes, hey, you see that Trump video is pretty reasonable, right? And it's like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. But so like the left is just it's become so angry and bombastic that it's pushing people away.
Yeah.
Of all types. Like, do you see that famous Marianne Williamson video? She's the hippie crystal woo-woo lady.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, she's not really the crystal woo-woo lady. Like, that's what they called her.
She's so nice.
She's
I
so
liked
nice, and that was
her.
mean.
I really
Right.
liked her.
She's
Yeah.
very
I did. I liked her too. So, I mean, for one thing, the media just relentlessly tore her apart as the crystal woo-woo lady.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't own any crystals. That's crazy.
Poor lady.
And then she was on Fox, and it was kind of a hot mic moment where she was just shocked. Like, why are the conservatives so nice to me and the left is so mean?
Yeah, I remember that.
And then she kind of got mad because they published it.
Well, it's true. And I mean, we'll look
Yeah.
at Brett Weinstein, for example, the Evergreen College fiasco. He went on Fox News, which they took as even further evidence of his evil. But yeah, because Fox News is the only legacy media that would talk to him, because the rest of the legacy media is, they've got their one narrative they're going to push. And if your story doesn't fit it, they're not going to cover it.
They can't let you go.
They can't.
How crazy is it? I grew up with Fox News being fake news. And
I mean, yeah, me too.
And today Fox News is like, they're accurately reporting on what's going on. They're biased.
They are biased.
But it's to their benefit to, I mean, they've been kind of negative on Trump in certain circumstances that made him angry. Yeah. They brought on Bernie Sanders for a town hall. They hired Donna Brazile. I'm like, Fox News is trying to capture the moderates and the liberals, man.
Yeah. And guess
know.
what? It's working.
Yeah,
if I have to watch legacy media now, I guess I'll pick them. And it used to be I used to put them on in the gym just so I get angry and run faster on the treadmill.
That's brilliant. I love it.
I remember, Bill O'Reilly's sun goes up, sun comes down. You can't explain that. You remember that famous bit?
I don't remember that bit. No.
I can't remember who he was interviewing, but he was like, there are things we can't explain. Tide goes in, tide goes out. You can't explain this. Sun goes up, sun comes down. And the dude there was like, Are you joking? We explained this 500 years ago. Like, what are you talking?
A little behind.
But so, I can drag Fox News for where they used to be, but I think Tucker Carlson is now, he's the best guy on cable TV.
He's the best guy on cable TV. I absolutely agree. And gives the straight, I mean, obviously still biased. We're all biased in some way, but at least he gives, I think, a take that matches up with reality more than the rest.
He does.
The rest is The rest is living in that 1984 version of whatever is rewritten today is now fact, and they're believing it. And he's not doing that. And I don't know. Get over your I had to get over my embarrassment of saying that I like Tucker Carlson now. And
I was in Portland, and this is a crazy thing. A couple years ago, I was in Portland. There was a right-wing event. There was a left-wing event. I actually had some Antifa see me, and I was like, oh, here it goes. And it was some young women, and they walked up, and this one woman goes, I think you're really awesome, but I got to keep it quiet because people might get mad I said that.
That's so
this was like a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, I think, when I was in Portland. Maybe 3, actually. It's been a long time. But like, this is at a time when I was covering and interviewing right-wing people, and the left was attacking me for it. And there was a couple people in Portland who were overtly in black bloc saying like, yo, keep it up, man. Just, I can't let people, I'm not going to high five you because people are going to. Yeah. So I don't know what the deal is with these people, but I was in Portland. There was a ton of people. I was at a bar, and this guy walks over and gave me a bottle of hot sauce. And I was like, what is this? And he goes, you're Tim Pool, right? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, hey, man, good job. Here, try. You can have this. It's on the house. And it was really good. And there were people in Portland who were straight up like, I know what you do. You do a great job. Like, we need this. And I was critical of Antifa and Black Bloc the entire time.
Wow.
But I bring the story up because I was standing on a street corner, and one of these lefties was talking to me saying like, what do you think about the fake news and all this stuff? And I mentioned, I think Tucker Carlson's actually does a good job. I think, a lot, I do like Anderson Cooper a little bit, but he's certainly gone off the deep end in a lot of ways. I used to be a bigger fan, and I think Tucker Carlson does a pretty good job. Somebody filmed it, some lefty filmed it, and then like tried making it a scandal. Tim Pool likes Tucker Carlson. Oh.
Did they turn it into a song? Were you singing
No. They were just trying to. Nobody cared.
Cool.
Nobody cares. They like it's Tim Pool's a milquetoast fence sitter. Nobody. The hit pieces on me are like they don't stick because I'm too boring. It's true. So they try, and it's like that dude. He's
milquetoast fence sitter. What does that mean? That you're not? They think they want you to pick a political party.
Well, so. I don't know who coined this. It was a comment on a video a long time ago. They said Tim Pool is a milquetoast fence sitter, and milquetoast is a reference to this old comic.
Right, I know what milquetoast means, but
right.
But what do they say? What do they?
Like I won't join any faction.
You're fence sitting on parties or candidates or
everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I'd be like, well, look, the Democrats are at least saying this, and the Republicans are saying this. To be completely honest, I don't think it's fair to say I'm a milquetoast fence sitter. Like literally, I think it's a funny joke.
Yeah.
But I've straight up was like, I'm going to vote for Trump because the Democrats have gone completely insane, pending some changes.
Me too. Like, I'm interested in, people ask me, what about Unity 2020? You said you kind of like that. And I do.
Yeah.
And if something materializes with that and there's a viable candidate who's a liberal that I like, I would consider that still. But as of today, I think I'm probably voting for Trump.
Yeah, look, Trump tried to pull our troops out of Afghanistan. That to me was like, he could have handed me $100 bill. You know what I mean? I love that he did that. He's talking about pardoning some people. We'll see if he actually pulls it off. These are little, it's whispering sweet nothings. We'll see if he actually does anything. But I think he's improved. I think the war thing is really, really big. And with the riots going on, the Democrats calling them peaceful protests and lying, the media lying about it. I tell you, man, I read articles on this every morning. I wake up for 81 days. Like, here's the morning update on the riots because they happen every night. And these websites just say protester, demonstrator. And it's the funniest sentence when it's something like, a cop was bludgeoned to a concussion by a demonstrator. I'm like, no. That's like they barricaded the exits to the police department and tried to burn it down.
Yeah.
Demonstrators tried to burn down a police department with human beings inside. So anyway, my point is, the Unity 2020 thing I think is interesting, but I'm not confident. Look, it's possible they pull out a candidate who's got a bunch of good things behind them.
They don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to win. And I'll tell you what, man, if Trump he's literally trying to withdraw from Afghanistan, that's not a promise. He's literally trying to do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'll take it. I'll take what I can get. That was a big deal for me with Obama. It struck me emotionally, and now Trump literally did it. So I'm like, and that's the best I can do. I don't care about your tribe. I don't care about getting canceled. I don't care what you think about the Orange Man. I care about bringing the remainder of our troops out of the Middle Eastern countries and sealing this bit of history off. And it's a blight on the past 20 years for this country.
Well, what you just described is what we talked about earlier, having principles that are up here above party or tribe or ideology. So it's like, if I believe in peace and I want less war, well, I'm going to pick the candidate that looks like they're leading us towards less war. Or if I believe in free speech, I've got to go with the candidate that supports free speech. And it doesn't matter if they're in your party or not. You know, get over that your identity is linked to whatever your political beliefs are. That's stupid.
If it was Bernie Sanders doing the same thing, I'd be like, I'll take what I can get. You know,
I voted for Tulsi in the primaries. You know, if she were running, I probably wouldn't be voting for Trump. I'd probably be voting for her.
Yeah. I supported Tulsi specifically because of her stance on war, but also her willingness to reach across the aisle, try and communicate with Trump supporters and conservatives. She was fairly progressive, and there was a lot of things I didn't like about her campaign. I mean, she's opposed to nuclear energy, fairly progressive, but more in line with, you know, I've gone through a lot of her policies, and I was like, the war thing right off the bat. I was like, that's kind of what I want. Everything else, I'm kind of like, don't like that, but that's okay. And I think she was willing to compromise by having real conversations. That to me was important.
That's huge.
And she's a major
and
National
she did
Guard.
not speak woke.
Totally. And the bombs she dropped on Kamala Harris, I was like, everybody was
that
like,
was a war crime, man.
Yeah, that was
seriously the only war crime she'll ever.
It's got a violation of one of those conventions. You know, I don't know, Hague, Geneva, whatever. But
Geneva.
I was so happy.
That's great.
So happy.
I love that.
And you know, when she supported impeachment, I was really let down.
Yeah.
That was such a fake, stupid. What was the? You know, I don't know, man. But I can respect that. She ended up. What did she do? She abstained, I guess. In the end, I can't remember. It's been a while.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think she did.
Yeah.
I can respect her efforts. You know, to me, I may not agree with a lot of her policies, but I felt it was really important to support people like Yang and Tulsi because they were trying to have some kind of unity. And so while I could say this, if we had a politician who was, I don't know, probably out there on some policy ideas on the left, but their whole, you know, campaign was like working with Trump and Trump supporters to bring America together, I'd happily support that. You know, we've got this insane division in this country, and we can easily have conversations with anybody, but the left is just unwilling for the most part. They'll have debates. They always love to say like, I'll challenge you to a debate. And there are some people on the left that I absolutely respect. There's a lot of people on the left who are willing to have real conversations. They're not the super woke, fairly progressive, however. But there's too many on the left that, and probably a lot of these, like, you know, sleeper cell type people you've mentioned, it's impossible to get through to and have conversations with.
Yeah, well, they don't want to. So one of the things I started doing after the election was I started these things called civility dinners. And I started doing these in Austin, Texas, and we would get together people on the left and the right. So we had Trump voters, Clinton voters, third party voters, not whatever. Everyone came, different religions, atheists, and then we just have dinner and talk. And when people ask me about them, they're like, well, how do you handle, you know, when people get really angry at each other? But the thing is, they self-select for people who are hungry to discuss things again with those who disagree with them. So we don't get ideologues. We don't get social justice warriors, which are the ideologues on the left, and we don't get white nationalists or any ideologues from the right. We get people who want to talk with other people who disagree.
I don't even, you know, the left and the right thing in this country just makes no sense, you know?
It's not important anymore. Not right now. I don't think it is.
Well, I just mean in terms of like far left and far right.
Oh, okay.
I always struggle with this to try and describe, because white nationalists aren't necessarily far right by like, not economically at least. They're not laissez-faire capitalists. They're not anarcho-capitalists. They're not libertarians. They're not going to be voting for Ron Paul, you know, to get on the gold standard.
Well, Hitler was a socialist in that economically, right?
So that's a really interesting debate, you know, that they like to have.
I know that's a debate, but he did talk about.
I get my understanding that I've pieced together, and I'm not going to pretend to be a historian on any of this stuff, was that it was kind of like for his select group of people, socialism,
right?
You know, and so it was like ethno-socialism or something. He, you know, they like to say he's far right authoritarian. What I've kind of pieced together is that there's two different lefts and rights as we talk about it. There's cultural and economic. And so this is the problem with the right. There's actually not necessarily a real far right. And you can actually go to the Anti-Defamation League's website and see they have multiple categories for what they constitute far right. It makes no sense. Anti-government, far right. You know, white supremacist, far right. You know, sovereign citizen, far right.
Super government, far right.
Yeah, exactly. And like they label a guy far left who was an ethno-supremacist, but he was a black identity extremist. So he had the same ideology as a white nationalist, but his skin color determined left wing. That's not fair to the left. You know what I mean? Like, so what I end up seeing is you have a left in this country. The far left are both economic and culturally far left in the sense that they're ultra progressive, erase the traditions, tear down the founding fathers, and also communism.
Right.
But then in terms of the far right, we don't have a very powerful and active mainstream anarcho-capitalist base. We don't have a very powerful and prominent libertarian, base. The Libertarian Party is the third biggest party, so they're fairly large, but they're not nearly as powerful as the woke people are with all the major corporations on their
not
side.
at all.
And we have a very microscopic, ultra-traditionalist right, which, may overlap with some white nationalists, or many of them probably, but they're, particularly irrelevant.
Here's what scares me though, is, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? This law that exists. So I am afraid that the social justice left, which is the biggest threat, I think, currently to our culture, to not just to America, but to Western civilization. I think this ideology is cancerous, it's evil, and I think history shows us where it's going to lead. That ideology being so dominant, I'm afraid, is also going to create this reactionary boogeyman that they keep pretending exists. Because like you, I think it's been pretty inconsequential. Nobody was showing up for KKK rallies a few years ago.
Yeah.
People rightfully pointed at those guys and laughed. And now this social justice left being embraced by the mainstream is pushing people there.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Well, no, you are correct, but in a different way.
Okay.
They are this group.
Interesting.
Robin DiAngelo says she's a racist. She in her book.
Yeah.
She says she is.
She does.
And she is a white woman who is an avowed racist, telling white people to have a racial awakening to make the world a better place. And that is opening the door to creating those groups. And then when it comes from the Democratic Party, I'm like, well, that aligns with history.
Well, and look at what they're pushing now, Tim. I don't know if you saw, but the Smithsonian museums, they were pushing the stuff about whiteness culture.
Totally.
And we're reading it off, and it's all, and I learned this stuff in school, but now it's mainstream guys, and they're saying, so things like being on time,
time
working
itself,
hard,
time itself.
the concept of time, working hard, strength, perseverance, survival skills, reason, logic, individualism, math, having a family, that these things are all functions of whiteness. How racist is that towards anyone who's not white?
Yes, absolutely. That is such. I have had this argument over and over with these people. These white SJWs. This is why I'm saying they are the white supremacists. Yeah. I had a guy actually tell me that the concept of time was created by white Europeans and then spread around the world. And I'm like, buddy, East Asian cultures were further advanced than European cultures, like way earlier. The invention of gunpowder, there's a bunch of other things, and I don't need to, nitpick and stuff. But other cultures existed around the world that had similar agriculture. It wasn't invented by you, but they believe it. These people literally believe that white people made everything. And so that's why I think...
You know who else believes that? White supremacists.
Yeah.
Well, they are.
It's a one-to-one correlation at this point.
But so, call it teardrop theory, call it horseshoe theory. Some people are creating a new circle thing. I don't think any of these things necessarily encompass what's actually happening. So that friend of mine that I told you was possessed.
Yeah.
She made a post where she said, it's time for white people, like I'm paraphrasing. It was like, white people need to wake up to what it means to be white and recognize their privilege and start taking action. And I immediately was like, you need to call me. And I said, do you have any idea what you just said?
Dude.
So I'm like, you are literally posting, she said something to me like, look, I'm not talking to you or marginalized communities. I'm not trying to disparage anybody. I'm just telling white people they need to wake up. And I was like, yes, white racial collectivism.
Yeah.
We experienced that in this country a long time ago.
Yeah.
And when I try explaining that California just voted to repeal, and the Assembly and the Senate repeal the civil rights law.
Yeah.
She didn't understand this. And so I ended up explaining to her, like, they've just, in November, it's going to referendum, and the Democrats are going to pass this, and they're going to take that away. So now you quite literally have the question of who are the white supremacists and where's the boogeyman? It's them.
Yeah.
They're getting rid of these laws. And they also like to say people are reactionary. They're reactionary. They're bringing us back in time. They're challenging free speech, bringing us back to an era when we didn't have it. They're challenging civil rights, bringing us back to the era where it didn't exist. Their ideology specifically says people should judge others based on race and identity.
And sex and identity. And see, the ultimate ends of this belief system are the destruction of everything. I mean, it's nihilistic. It's a destruction of individualism, like you said, free speech, everything that built this country, the destruction of equality. But here's the weird thing. There are the people who are in it who I think know what it is, and they're just in it for power. And
Totally.
This ideology is built around worshiping power. Like I said, this, instead of being built around class, it's about power. When social justice warriors die, they say rest in power. They don't say rest in peace. It tells you what they value. And they're all saying a lot of that lately. Have you noticed rest in power? But so that's what they value. And there are those in it with bad intent, and they know what it is. And I have little respect for those people, especially when they cloak themselves in the word of God and try to sell it at a Christian church. It disgusts me.
Oh man.
But or when they're selling it in the schools, it disgusts me, in the elementary schools. But there are also, I think, the vast majority of these people are in it with good intent. I was in it with good intent for 20 years. And they don't know that the ends are the destruction of if you try to talk to most of them, like we were saying, Lydia, they don't have good historical context. If you try to even say, hey, your belief system is based in Marxism, they're like, whoa, tinfoil hat there, Carrie. They don't even know what Marxism means. Yeah. They can't define it in their own words. They don't even know.
You just got to show them the Teen Vogue article. Have you seen that?
Which one? There's so many terrible ones. Which one?
The one that said that praises Marx.
Oh my god, I didn't see that one.
Teen Vogue wrote an article praising Karl Marx. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That people can walk around in this country wearing, you could wave a Soviet flag and people would be like, like they killed tens or hundreds of millions. It's like the worst destruction of life.
Yeah.
Nightmarish.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because you're right. They don't know. And they just wear images and symbology that they haven't given a lot of thought to, and they repeat. So a lot of people who push this, they just repeat these I call them the magic words of social justice. They just repeat them many of them are created to stop conversation.
Absolutely.
And they'll just throw these things out and be like, oh yeah, well that's your white fragility. Boom. And then like walk, and okay, what is that?
So, it's really fun when I've literally used that against them. And they break down.
They don't know what to do. They're like, oh.
Well, so it's really interesting. However, most of them say "F you" because they don't play by the rules. I've been in arguments with some of these SJWs. They're typically white, and I'll say they'll say something. Well, that's just white fragility, and I'll say, actually, I'm not white, so you need to check your privilege. They'll snap because they don't care about the rules. They'll say "F you," what you're talking about. Blah. As soon as you try and challenge them and say no, the rules are gone. Because it was only meant to hold you down.
The rules never apply to them.
Right.
Well, it's the same thing. Listen, look at this BS. So one of the things I wrote in the piece that really pisses me off is the way that they're trying to conflate speech with violence.
Yeah.
So they have these signs that say silence equals violence. Your white silence is violence. Or like your words are violence. And the reason they're doing that is they're trying to take us to a place in society where we think those things are the same so that they can then justify actual violence, like the videos you took. They can say, oh, that's in self-defense. We beat that guy up with a brick over the head because his words were violence. Right? And that's where they want to take us, which is a very evil place.
Words are violence and silence is violence.
Both.
What they're basically saying is say what we tell you to say or else.
That's it. And you know why that is? Because they say, shut up and listen to black people. Shut up and listen to women. Shut up and listen to gay people and trans people. But then they say, oh, well, not that woman or that gay person or that black person. Or
not
that.
Blair White.
Yeah.
Not Brandon Strzok. Yep. Not Candace Owens. Yeah. The list goes on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm still in a lot of social justice groups on Facebook because I like to see, how they're updating their magic words and terms. But they really say it like it's abracadabra, like white privilege, boom.
Yeah.
But the great thing about magic is if you don't believe in it, it doesn't work on you. And then they don't know what to do. You're like, I don't believe in that. But here's one quick thing. I've seen in these groups where they've indoctrinated a bunch, and like you said, it's mostly white people they're indoctrinating, and a lot of them are well-intentioned white women. And so they learn all the rules, right? And you'll see some of them in these groups who are saying, okay, and they'll post in good faith, like, here's a video of Candace Owens. Like, I just discovered this black woman, and I don't understand what she's saying, but I'm willing to be quiet and listen. Because that's what they've learned to say, right? I'm willing to be quiet and listen. And then immediately in comes one of the social justice high priestess or priests of that group, and they're like, here's why the rules don't apply to that black person.
Magic words.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they roll over.
I experienced this firsthand during Occupy Wall Street, and my mom had a funny story. So it's most people have probably heard me tell the story where there was a white SJW and some various different minority group people, SJWs, and we were all arguing. The white guy called me white and told me I needed to listen, and when I explained to him that I was actually mixed, he went, now I see what you're saying.
Your point.
But this is why for me it's particularly, I don't necessarily want to say insidious, but problematic to say the least.
Yes.
Is that, as I've often said, it's not just about Asian people, but particularly mixed Asian people. I called Schrodinger's people of color.
Okay.
But someone corrected me and said, no, it's Heisenberg's uncertainty people of color. That the position of their marginalized, status is dependent upon the observer.
Yes,
totally true.
That's hilarious. Thank you for that phrase.
Which one?
Well, this happened to a friend of mine on Facebook, and I saved the comment thread because I just wanted to have it forever. And it was where this white woman, this white SJW, was going in hard on him and calling him all these names. She didn't realize that he was black because his profile picture wasn't very clear. And then at one point, he kept asking her, "What do you mean by marginalized people?" And she's like, "I'm not here to do your emotional labor for you." And and it's not my job to she was totally going off. And then at some point he says, "Well, I've looked it up, and according to your definition, I am a marginalized person." And literally her next comment is like, "I'm so sorry. What can I do to help you?"
Oh my gosh.
So
That's
gross.
amazing.
Who is that radio host? Do you remember this?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember this. She was like, "You wouldn't understand from your position of privilege as a white male," and he goes, "I'm black. I thought that your producer would have filled you in."
Yeah, it's like, I'm actually black. And
and I've been black my whole life.
It was remarkable when I told my friend that repealing civil rights law was terrifying to my family, and she didn't know anything about it, and said, how does this help your family? And I was like, is that a joke? Like, are you kidding? Like, it was there are several generations alive today that lived through not having civil rights. They have no historical context, like you were saying earlier. Yeah. So to them, it's like, why does it matter? Let's get rid of it. I don't understand it.
I don't need it.
Yeah, I don't need it. So why should I care?
Privileged.
And then,
There's also this real arrogance when, I think in the belief system, where this tendency to look back at history and judge things through the current lens, and for people to believe that they're so much smarter and they're more morally upright than everyone else who's ever walked the earth.
Susan B. Anthony.
Oh, there you go.
Could not believe it.
Oh my gosh.
It's a great segue into Trump.
Yes.
Trump did. It was a major letdown. You guys maybe saw this. He announced last night he was going to pardon someone very important. I was so excited. I'm like texting my friends like, it's not going to be Snowden. It's not going to be Flynn. Is it Julian Assange? Is he going to pardon? Is it WikiLeaks? My friends who are big fans of WikiLeaks are like, this is huge. I can't believe Trump would pull this off. And then he announces it's so posthumously pardoning Susan B. Anthony.
By the time I was asking him about it, I was like, who do you think it's going to be? Is it going to be Assange? And he's like, it's going to be someone that I don't care about.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
Oh, great.
I was like, I'm too familiar with politics.
I was so excited.
So anyway, the point is, Susan B. Anthony was epic. She famously defied the law to vote and got arrested for it, and that's why we honor Susan B. Anthony with her face on a silver dollar, on American dollar coin. And Trump did some boring presidential, typical nonsense. I am gonna, today marks the 100th anniversary of the 19th, so we're pardoning Susan B. Anthony, and that was it. And yet the media disparaged her. Then I shouldn't say disparage. I said denigrate, unfairly criticized, saying, well, she was racist and she was, opposed to abortion, and therefore, and now all these leftists are coming out, actually dragging Susan B. Anthony, and I lost. I started laughing when I saw these stories. At first, I was mad. And then I was laughing.
At first you were mad because it wasn't someone worthwhile, like someone that's alive that could enjoy the pardon now.
And do good work.
You know, rest in power, Susan B. Anthony.
Right.
But then you started laughing. See, this is the thing about him is I don't get this. They simultaneously call him a troll, but then they always take the bait. So do they not know what troll means?
I guess not.
The media loves it.
Yeah.
I think they want Trump to win passively because they're worried about their ratings if he loses.
That's one of my theories as well. As soon as they picked Joe Biden, I was thinking there's no way they can put him in the debates. They just can't, not in the state he's in. And I say that with sympathy for him because watching him, it makes me feel sad that he's running and that no one has told him.
Oh, man.
Maybe take some time. But anyway, I was thinking, wow, maybe they don't want to win because they're picking him. Why would they do that unless they want to wait and build up? Because it's good for them to have this anti-Trump anger and this fake resistance, and they're not resisting anything. The status quo.
They're the
What do you
establishment.
resist? You are the establishment. Yeah, exactly.
You're the cookie companies and the soda companies and the major broadcasters. You're not. You are the
resistance brought to you by McDonald's.
Yes.
Yes,
I
right,
noticed
right,
that.
right.
Seriously, literally.
If there is some kind of weird conspiracy where the Democrats are purposefully trying to lose and they're helping Trump and they're all in on it, I just hope it involves aliens. You know,
Right.
it's like it's going to turn to be something dumb. Like some guy was like, "Hey, we make good money off Trump. Let's just throw in the towel and get paid." Or the Democrats realize they can't win, so they set up some dummy candidates doomed to fail. It's just boring politics. But it'd be really great if it was actually some secret conspiracy. We all got to wear our masks and clean our hands so that when the aliens come, we don't get them sick. And
Yeah.
that would be fun.
There's
No,
going to be
it's
a
not.
good build up for something. Hey, so aliens apparently is not on the list of things that YouTube doesn't want us to talk about.
That's right.
No, they love it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
We're allowed to talk about aliens all day. Now.
And we should.
Okay, good.
So one thing that was really shocking to me today, was Trump bought the most expensive ad space on the internet, the YouTube banner. And it arguably is or isn't, but for the most part, most people say it is the most expensive ad buy you could possibly make. Trump did a 7-figure ad buy.
Wow.
And the New York Times reported he was able to do this during the DNC because the Democrats didn't buy the ads. And what? Why?
Couple that with the embarrassing videos you talked about at the beginning. And again, I don't know if they are really running.
I don't think they are.
Can I throw something in here?
Yeah.
Because I pulled up the DNC live stream, PBS, with 2 million viewers. You want to know how many viewers they have right now? They have 8,142 viewers.
Well,
I know it's just the one. I know,
'cause
but it's ridiculous.
The actual DNC YouTube right now has 56,000 people watching.
Okay, that's good. That's
So-
great. I'm proud of them.
Good for them.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you what. We've got 46.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
we're
oh,
just,
wow.
We're just a couple people
chatting.
hanging out, complaining about the Democrats.
yeah.
So
It's way more fun.
We're competing with the DNC. We're competing with all the other people making fun of the DNC.
We're laughing a lot more.
In my opinion, there are way more people who have walked away, left the left, and are mocking the Democrats for their unhinged, unprincipled, sporadic positions. I mean, like, I don't even know. I don't know what they're doing.
I just want some authentic people to. I don't know what's going to happen if Trump wins. I kind of think. So after 2016, they didn't learn the lesson. Like I started trying to figure out why he won because I wanted to make sure he didn't win again. So I figured I should learn and understand why he won. And
it red-pilled you.
it totally red pilled me. But it also, I lost a lot of friends who basically said, it was racism and sexism, period.
Oh, man.
And just the fact that you're sharing these kinds of articles and sources and things that you're looking into, it proves that, basically you're privileged, allows you to blah, 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 blah. But they didn't learn their lesson. And so they've doubled down on social justice ideology. And like you said, maybe some of it's just they're pandering to whatever they think will help them win. And maybe they think it's the wokeism will help them win. But what happens next? Do they learn if they lose again?
There's a Gallup poll showing that up to 2018, the progressives have basically dominated the party, like about 46%. In the past 2 years, I'd imagine it's even grown further than that. There is a downward trend within the Democratic Party of moderates and conservatives and an upward trend of liberal. So I think what they mean by liberal is more
They
progressive.
probably, yeah.
they've taken over. And so you end up with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris desperately trying to pander to this younger, more progressive and further left on multiple issues, but they still need the independence. In the internet, in my opinion, the social media censorship and bias has resulted in an unhinged, chaotic, destructive group of people that don't understand what the world is. I think that they're suffering from some kind of algorithmic derangement disorder. So what happens is, I've talked about it quite a bit. These media companies figured out how to maximize their reach by mashing keywords together. On Facebook, if you interact with a certain kind of content, Facebook feeds you more of it. They want you to stay on the site. So websites like BuzzFeed, Huffington Post quickly started realizing what content worked. They put up a video about police brutality, gets 1 million views. They put up a video about sexism, gets 1 million views. Racism, another 1 million. What do? You combine the three. A black woman was beaten by police. Racist, sexist, police brutality. And now they get 3 million views. So what ends up happening is you have all these mishmashed ideas that make no sense jammed together, constantly being fed through social media. The people who get rewarded on Twitter are the angriest, meanest people who put out the nastiest hot takes. So it's nothing but vitriol and hate. And they build a worldview based on unhinged, paranoid delusions. You take a look at the post office conspiracy theory going around right now. This is algorithmic derangement disorder, in play. People are being fed all of these confirmation bias, nonsensical conspiracies, and Twitter allows it, but they'll ban QAnon people. You can't say learn to code on Twitter, you'll get banned, but you can absolutely post a picture from 2011 of a mailbox in a dumpster and claim it's from today, and Donald Trump personally did it, and it goes viral.
It's amazing.
They believe all of this stuff, and their world is just garbled in nonsense. Like my friend I was telling you about, I see her post. She's like, Trump has deployed unmarked secret police across this country. It never happened. And I'm like, I remember, 15 years ago or something, stumbling upon Alex Jones for the first time and hearing him talking about FEMA camps and all this other stuff. And now Alex Jones is talking about Donald Trump. And for sure, when he went on Rogan, he talked about weird, crazy stuff. But I'm saying they ban him. The left right now, secret police snatching people up, never happened. Trump deploying them across the country, stealing mailboxes, a grand conspiracy. None of it's happening. And all of this is unchecked.
Russiagate.
Oh, Russiagate for sure.
It's the biggest.
Yep. And now it's turning into an inverted scandal of Obamagate. One of my favorite stories recently, Rachel Maddow was so obsessed with Russia that she once claimed Russia might turn the electricity off in Fargo in the middle of winter. When the Durham investigation actually gets an indictment, someone's actually about to plead guilty to altering a document to essentially frame people in the Trump administration. She didn't talk about it at all.
No.
She suddenly doesn't care because she is the most prominent conspiracy theorist right now in the country. Yeah. Hands down. So what does she do? She reads excerpts from Michael Cohen's book, hot takes, salacious nonsense about the president.
She's just giving the people who are already plugged into her, and she's giving them what they want, more of what they want. It's like going to your, people are going to get their fix, and she's giving them the drugs they came for, and that's it.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to give you something different. It might shock your system.
To be fair, I think my content's fairly one-sided, obviously. So you could criticize me in very similar ways. I rag on the Democrats all the time.
You could do that to me too, yeah. I mean, our podcast is called Unsafe Space. We mostly, for the most part, critique my old belief system.
What I think is a little different, though, is that the network, you're on YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You want to just shout out your channel while we're here?
It's Unsafe Space on YouTube for as long as we last here.
Yeah.
We're also on the other places.
But so think about the network we're on. Setting the algorithmic problems aside, YouTube isn't nearly as bad as Facebook or Twitter. You go on YouTube, and I see people in the comments talking about Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is...
I like Jimmy Dore.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't want to, point the finger at him, but he's a socialist, isn't he? He's
a progressive for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he calls himself socialist or not, but I think that's pretty close to what he believes on economic issues. Yeah. But Jimmy Dore, here's what I like about Jimmy Dore. He's a real progressive.
Right.
He's not a social justice warrior.
Definitely.
Just like dude, I mean, I don't care. You're going to call me right winger or some of you anyway. I don't care. But I'm a liberal. I'm
Yep.
not a social justice word. These words mean something. Liberal means something.
Liberal
Progressive means something.
Liberals right wing now. Isn't that crazy? It really is.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, the point was,
Yeah.
when you're on YouTube, if you follow Jimmy and you follow me and you follow Crowder and say, who's another good example, Kyle Kalinske, you're getting a mixed bag.
Yeah.
And I think there's one really interesting thing about the YouTubers is we all kind of agree, whether you're left or right, Russiagate was complete BS.
Yeah.
Except
Jimmy Dore absolutely believes
right,
that.
for sure. You can turn on MSNBC, and if that's all you watch, you're sitting in front of the idiot box just eating up, refuse from the bottom of the barrel. You go on YouTube, and the interesting thing about YouTube that all of these hit pieces missed, they tried claiming there's a rabbit hole and stuff, is that if I make a video about immigration and you watch it, and Kyle Kalinske or the Young Turks or Jimmy Dore make a video about immigration, YouTube feeds you content based on the subject matter, not the opinion on the subject matter. So you click, hey, I'm interested in immigration, boom. You might actually end up seeing a progressive's take on immigration, criticizing Trump. You turn on MSNBC, they ignore anything, so you have no opportunity to actually get, counterpoints. Yeah. And then what ends up happening is what we're seeing, the media across the board has pointed to the left and just darted so far. The only thing we're getting is hysteria. Across the board, they're bringing back Russiagate again. I kid you not. Yeah, it's coming back, baby. They're bringing Russiagate back. They're screaming about the post office is not true. Secret police, none of it's true. It's just all unhinged. But if you're on YouTube, you get a mix of progressives, moderates, conservatives. Some of them are, pushing fake news for sure, because we're not perfect people. We get things wrong. But it's the opinions are across the spectrum.
But they're not pushing fake news with the veneer of expertise that the legacy media has. The legacy media pushes fake news. They push conspiracy theory, but they still have this veneer of authority.
Right.
And as if you're listening to something that's unbiased, and it disgusts me. And one of the things that bothers me online is we're living in a day where a lot of people like to engage in genetic fallacy, so if you share a link to an opinion piece or a news piece or something you like, and if they're on the right, they'll say, oh, it's Vox, I'm not going to read that. And if they're on the left, they'll say, oh, it's Breitbart, I'm not going to read that.
Vox
But just read it. I think if you're an adult, you should be able to read anything and discern opinion from the facts of the piece and go find other sources and see what you think about it. It's not going to hurt you if you're an adult to read it.
Right.
But we're living in that place. And one of the differences I see, though, when people play that game is that the places on the left, they don't say what their bias is. So if you go to the about page of Breitbart or even like Daily Wire, they tell you on the about page, conservative leaning, they'll tell you. But if you go to the about page of BuzzFeed, it doesn't say social justice leaning or leftist leaning. They just pretend like they're non-biased, and that disgusts me.
And there's a service I use called NewsGuard. Actually, you can see it. It's this little green check mark that appears in all these articles.
Oh, yeah.
You can see the New York Times has a 100 credibility rating from NewsGuard. Mm-hmm. NewsGuard will give the Daily Wire a negative score. They get a red exclamation point because they don't separate opinion from fact, and they have they've published incorrect information before. It's an opinion website. It's a conservative opinion news aggregator. But Media Matters, which is literally a nonprofit designed to smear the right and publishes conspiracy fake news nonsense nonstop, gets a green check mark.
You're kidding.
So I use this service specifically for that reason. Try and come at me and claim my sources are bad when NewsGuard itself is ridiculously biased. Ridiculously. Breitbart had a green check mark for a while, meaning they're certified, they're pretty good, they're credible. They did that video of the doctors giving a press conference.
Yeah.
And now they're in review.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, they're just a news organization that interviewed someone. So when Anderson, they didn't even do an interview. They filmed a press conference. Yeah. When Anderson Cooper has on the MyPillow guy, and the MyPillow guy is talking about hydroxychloroquine in a positive light, why don't they get put under review?
Under review, yeah.
Because it's biased against the right, specifically. Yeah. You don't got to be left or right or moderate. It doesn't matter what you are. You can see it if you're being reasonable and trying to be fair to the facts. That the whole system is rigged against people who are on the right.
But that requires being, again, to get back to, I guess, philosophy or something, it requires people being vulnerable. And some people, you have to, I'm trying to think of, there's this guy, George Lakoff. He wrote this book, Don't Think of an Elephant. Have you heard of this?
Oh, no, but you made me think of an elephant.
Okay. It's so it's a very quick read. I read this after Bush won because Lakoff, he's a linguist, and he was trying to explain to people on the left why people on the right so often disregard facts if it doesn't fit their narrative. Now, it's a very good book. What he missed was that this happens on the left too. It took me a while to see that.
Yeah.
But what he was trying to say was that if you sort of think of your ideology or your narrative, the way you look at the world as a house, right? And then if you give somebody a fact that doesn't fit their house, you're not just asking them to like rebuild their window or their door frame or something. Sometimes it would require them to raise their entire house of belief to the ground. That's very hard for people to do. It's much easier to disregard that fact and say, oh, you got it from Breitbart. Goodbye. Like, and not look at it.
Absolutely.
It's hard. You're asking people to, to be very, very emotionally vulnerable and to be contend with losing friends and family and their whole and their sense of identity, who they are. So many people wrap their identity up in politics.
So you're voting for Trump.
I am.
Is there anything particular that stands out to you as like why you need to support him?
Okay. I didn't used to believe that your vote should be primarily a vote against anyone, but that has changed for me recently. The number one reason I'm voting for him is he's the only candidate I see right now who's not speaking woke. Even Jo Jorgensen, the libertarian candidate.
Oh man,
I wanted to vote for her. She's speaking woke.
Can you? It sounds like you're parroting my opinions.
He
back
said
to
the other thing last night. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I hate that. I never want to vote against anybody. I don't believe in that. I believe in standing up. But I felt at first for a while I felt really forced. Like I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, am I really gonna walk in there and vote for Trump? I have no choice. Like I see what they're doing and this ideology is doing, and Trump is resisting it. Now with the Afghanistan thing, I gotta be honest. That was big for me. I'm like, I'll take it. You know what I mean? But Jo Jorgensen, Libertarian Party, the premise of which is don't tread on me, quite literally said, we must be actively anti-racist. And I said, no, we mustn't do anything libertarian. I'm not trying to be mean. I think she didn't realize what she was doing or saying. But
she's just repeating it.
Exactly. And that's even worse in my opinion.
Yeah, because then you're doing it mindlessly. You're taking a knee to the ideology and just basically saying, I will be beholden to this belief system without even realizing what it is. Like inviting a vampire into your house.
And when you look up the definition of the ideology of anti-racism, like you said, it's
racism.
It's racism. It's like being constantly cognitive to racial identity and racial structures. And I'm like judging, and it says judging people based on this. And I said, no, I will not be having any of this. I've received tons of messages from people who said they don't like Trump and they were going to vote libertarian until she tweeted that.
Until she did that.
And now they realized this infection, this cult, whatever, is so widespread.
It is.
Even the libertarians are embracing it. And it feels like, hopefully, there's a silent majority that it's all washing over the silent majority. And eventually, they'll all rise up and say enough and vote for Trump because he's the one who's saying no to this.
Yeah.
That's hopefully.
So I can say some things I like about him. It's not, I just want to be honest that mostly I'm voting against social justice ideology. And that's not a one issue vote, by the way, because your ideology influences every single policy decision you're going to make. But there are some things he's done that I like. I like the right to try
Absolutely
bill that we talked about. I like prison reform. I like he made the AIDS drugs free. I like that he's done things that people on the left should be able to say, you know what? I like that thing, even though I don't like him. And they're not able to do that. Why is that?
Ideology, tribalism, cultism. Didn't he just reduce the price of EpiPens and insulin? Well, it was an executive order. So I don't.
What a racist.
Yeah, right. It's a deceptive media, and it scares me when they try and compare him to Hitler because he says fake news. And I worked in the news industry, and they told me to lie.
Wow.
To clarify, side with the audience.
Yeah.
Side with the audience. What does that mean? And I asked, does that mean if there's a factual news story that would offend the audience, we don't report it? Yeah, I think that's fair.
Wow.
Omission. Yep.
So if there's think about that in practice. There's a fight. Proud Boys Antifa. If I say that Antifa hit the Proud Boy and started the fight, that would offend the audience. We don't report it.
Wow.
So then what do we report? A fight broke out. Antifa got beat up. So it frames it by omitting that information. That's what they told me to do. I think,
Didn't you quit?
Well,
kind of?
I tried.
Okay.
And I was under contract. And so they ended up giving me a bonus because I think what they were trying to do is like, fall in line, buddy. Fall in line, buddy. The money is good. And I said, dude, I can make money. That's not my mission. My mission is better understanding of the world, helping people understand the world to the best of my abilities. I would be happy sitting down by the lake fishing all day and night. I'm not worried about your golden, handcuffs. So when the contract was up, I was gone. I said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
They tried, though. I'm not playing ball. And some of the people who worked there would call me a white supremacist behind my back. And that was the craziest thing to have white progressives telling me this. And I never even said anything to them. It was just like, I wouldn't fall in line. So they've absolutely altered the definition of white supremacist while they quite literally are.
I saw them call Charles Barkley a white supremacist. They'll call anybody a white supremacist who doesn't believe. Again, people have to get over their fear of name. Who cares what they call you? You know what you are.
Yep.
Well,
they're worried about getting fired.
Yeah.
Cancel culture.
I want to say one thing. I don't know how long this lasts, so I want to make sure I say this. If you are afraid now of speaking, and I get it, all those fears are legitimate. Your job, people are afraid of losing their job. People are afraid of their family's safety. They're afraid of losing friends, like their social standing. I get it. But just imagine where we'll be in 10 to 15 years if you don't speak now, if people don't start speaking now. And you don't have to get a podcast or go, wear a MAGA hat or, pick your battles. You can just start by having don't be afraid in a conversation with friends or family to push back a little bit.
Yeah. You be polite.
Yeah.
Make sure you're not getting overly angry. And
yep.
I'm personally not interested in emotional victories. You know what I really don't like is there are some people who will try and feign a good conversation. You're talking to your family member. They start getting angry and they'll be like, you don't need to get angry at me. No, none of that. You say, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to make you mad. No, seriously. Like you want to chill and we'll just come back 5 minutes from now. I'm not, please don't get mad. I'm sorry. I got you angry. I just want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Try and actually have these conversations with people. It's not easy.
You have to it's not easy. It's like going to the gym and you have to do it, practice a lot. Yeah. You can't just go to the gym once. And some days you're going to not go to the gym and you're going to suck at it and you're not going to be nice.
Yeah, you can't win them all.
But then the next day you try again. And I really try and remember that is like, okay, I used to believe this stuff for 20 years. So whenever I get a little where I'm kind of angry at these people or whatever in a conversation, I try and remember what would I've said to my younger self. You have to be that soft landing place for when people wake up.
What would you say to your younger self or to an SJW to like kind of open the door and have, kind of a wake up moment for them?
Here's a question I haven't heard anyone answer yet. I told Lydia this today. Okay. So one of the things they try to do is they are really concerned with redefining words because as we've talked about, they redefine anti-racism, everything.
Yeah.
So they have to redefine words because controlling thought is how they control people. So how do you get people who are against racism or sexism to treat people differently on the basis of race and sex? Well, you tell them, well, there are these new definitions for racism and sexism now. And these new definitions say that racism and sexism equal prejudice plus power. And that means that it's impossible to be racist towards white people or it's impossible to be sexist towards men. So they push this and they're teaching kids this, right? So here's my question. And this is in good faith. Let's say I accept your definition and okay, we're going to start teaching that racism is prejudice plus power and it's impossible to be racist towards white men. At what measurable end goal will it suddenly become possible to be racist towards white men again? How can we tell? And then practically, how do you put the genie back in the bottle? How do you roll this back now that you've taught generations of children that racism is impossible against a specific race? And the same thing for sexism. How do you measure? When have we reached the equality point for you where we wake up one day and we're like, oh, wow, now it's possible to be sexist towards men. Okay, now we've got to go teach the kids something else. How do you do that? They can never answer that for me.
Well, you see, in colleges, men are the marginalized community because colleges are predominantly female now. There are more
Yeah.
women in college than men.
True.
Or there are more women graduating. And so we've actually seen a wave of lawsuits over the past couple of years where they're still doing like women in STEM and things like this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's still a disproportionate amount of men relative to women, but there are programs like Women Learn X and Women Do X. And there have been lawsuits saying if women are the majority in these schools, then how do you justify a program that benefits women? It's benefiting the majority, and they've been winning.
Yeah.
Actually dissolving these
good.
women's
Yeah.
groups. I think ultimately where this ends is no civil rights for anybody. Because you think about the logical conclusion of anyone being any identity they want. People who are, I think it was Brown University says if you're a person of color, you just identify as it and then you get the privileges afforded.
Yeah.
So what's the end result? Men and women competing on the same teams as they desire, which ultimately would result in biological males just dominating every bracket.
No gendered sports.
Yeah, no gendered sports. And, no programs to benefit anybody. They lump every, Asian into one group, and ultimately it just results in no civil rights for anybody. But not in the sense that it's like a meritocracy anymore.
Right.
In the sense where it's like everybody is equally being hurt.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Well, look at some of the results of what's happened with things going too far, because you have companies now where men are saying they don't want to take meetings alone with women.
Oh, totally.
And that makes absolute sense.
Yep.
Because now culturally we've arrived at a point where I believe all women, just nonsense. And so why would you take that risk? And so women are hurting because we've taken things so far. And I know some people are like they're even hesitating to hire women now, because what happens if you fire them, and what could the woman say? And now we believe all women.
What would happen if a male coworker walked in and I went, "Damn, Jack, if you've been working out, you're looking great. That's a new suit. Stunning. I'm impressed." Now imagine a woman walking in and me saying the exact same thing. "Ooh, Janet, wow, you've been working out. You look great.
Tim, you
That's
creep."
a stunning dress. Wow, I'm impressed."
So creepy.
It doesn't work. You could walk up to a guy and pat him on the shoulder and grab his elbow and be like, "Good job." You do that to a woman, whew, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So it's that right there where you realize men and women have different expectations. Guys can give maybe it's inappropriate. Guys shouldn't be even touching it all. Fine. I think, the reason why I say I think it ends up with everyone being equally hurt, no rights for anybody, is that to truly get equality, you must find the lowest common denominator. So that means the lowest, marginalized person, everyone must be hindered to that degree.
Yes. They
Well,
want us.
I'm sorry. It's what's that short story?
Harrison Bergeron.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
There it is.
this woman is me. I love it so much.
That story is, you're right. It's short. It's not, it's Kurt Vonnegut. It's anybody can read it in one sitting, and wow. You're right, Lydia. That's exactly what we're living through.
Exactly.
They put, so the people who are good looking have to wear bags over their head so that everyone is equally unattractive. The people who are smart have to have a noisemaker in their
Right,
ear
yeah.
to disrupt their thoughts. The most talented dancers have weights on their arms. And this is a social justice utopia, guys.
Yep.
We're all equally awful at everything.
That's an amazing story, because
Yeah.
after one of the shows, someone sent it to me. And it's like it ends with this super ripped, chiseled 7-foot dude just like ripping everything off and dancing with a beautiful woman or something.
Yeah.
It's
Perfect.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be that magical, I guess, when it comes crashing down. I fear that true liberalism, classical liberalism, the idea of the consent of the governed, individual rights and responsibilities, was hard earned. We fought very, very hard for this over a long period of time. And even when this country was founded, we didn't have it perfect. And it's taken a lot of, conversations over hundreds of years to get to where we are now, where people are more likely to have their rights granted and protected.
Yeah.
So they want to turn the clock back. They want to go back in time. They want to erase all that stuff. It is not liberalism. And so what I fear is going to happen, we've grown complacent. Not
Yeah.
us, obviously. We are sitting here saying like, yeah.
As a culture, we've grown
Yep.
complacent.
It's that saying, hard times make strong men. Strong men make good times make weak men. Weak men make hard times. So maybe we're in for a hard times, coming forward. I mean, we're in hard times. Look, we got the pandemic, we got economic crisis and whatever. Can't even travel outside of the country for the most part. So we're in hard times now.
I think we are maybe going to enter some version of the Dark Ages, but with like really scary technology. And then after that, though, I do think there's a place for enlightenment again. I think
agree.
there will be a reaction. I think that reaction's already starting. You're starting to see people speaking up against it, and you're starting to see liberals finally getting the courage to stand up and say, this is not liberalism.
I think if the silent majority does exist, and I think we believe it does, because we've gone over a bunch of the data. There was a Cato Institute poll, 62% of people are scared to speak certain opinions.
Yeah.
The only faction is the far left, where the majority feels comfortable speaking their opinions. That says to me that I believe the silent majority is real. I think the Democrats know they're going to lose. We'll see. I'm not a psychic. It's just what I'm looking at now. Sure, Biden's up in the polls, but now Trump has closed in battleground states to a point, to 1 point, which is well within the margin of error.
Yeah.
Trump very well may actually get a solid victory. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a major landslide, however. If that happens, I think we're in for really good times.
You think so?
Well, there's the possibility of war with China, to be completely fair. But you look at the economy under Trump for 3 years, and the only bad times we had was the media wouldn't shut up.
Yeah.
And there was some rioting and stuff, but the economy was incredible. The best numbers of our lives, says Jim Cramer. I talked to locals around my area, and they said they've never made more money in their lives. It's the best year ever.
Yeah.
And they were celebrating that COVID hit. So I think if Trump wins, the economy is going to reignite. Trump's going to do what he did over the past several years. The jobs are going to come back. The economy is going to erupt. People are going to be happy, and it's going to be...
Gosh, Tim, I hope you're right.
Well,
I really do. I'm a little worried about how long the media is going to play this corona thing out. In the same way that you said they're bringing Russiagate back, I'm not saying the virus is real, obviously, but I think the media manipulation and the media-induced hysteria over it.
Yep.
How long are they going to use that as a weapon?
There have been several threads popping up and stories suggesting we may have already hit herd immunity a long time ago. But because of the way the narrative works, you're only allowed to say the end is nigh.
Yeah.
So it actually, might be doing. We might be doing a lot better. Like we've seen an increase in cases, but a decrease in hospitalizations, and now the cases are going back down again, which suggests, at least some of the threads I've seen from various journalists, herd immunity. I think if Trump wins, he's untethered. He has to worry. He's done as much as he could. Now he's got a re-election to worry about, so he can do more. And there were some problems early on with his administration I was not a fan of. He brought on John Bolton, and I, barfed in my mouth a little bit.
Yeah.
And now he's doing a lot better. He is. And considering the existential threat I see from overt far left white supremacy groups, racial collectivists, I'm like, I'll take the good economy and the jobs and the ending the war. These things are great. Could we get a more professional ideal of a president? Probably, but if it's Trump, I've decided we need someone not woke to win.
Yes.
And if Trump wins, then he's going to be able to do whatever he wants, not worrying about re-election, and that's his true time to shine. The media lies about him being a fascist have been completely disproven. He did not deploy the feds to various cities. And I'm talking about the law enforcement, not the investigators. And if he did, maybe the riots wouldn't have...
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was a media lie. Trump deployed FBI, ATF, and DEA. They're helping doing desk work. But we saw that mass looting in Chicago, that would have been stopped if Trump did deploy federal law enforcement. But he's not doing it because he's not... it really bothers me when they say Trump should have done better on COVID. And I'm like, under the 10th Amendment, the states are responsible, and he's not going to intervene.
Well, speaking of calling him Hitler, like you said earlier, these are the people who had convinced me he was a demagogue and an authoritarian. I cried the night he was elected. I really believed all that stuff. And then to watch them now saying, like during COVID, why aren't you acting more like an authoritarian? Please be an authoritarian.
I know.
And again, I think part of this is that the idea you were hitting upon about this sort of projection about these people with white supremacist beliefs preaching social justice ideology because it is another form of white supremacy. It's weird.
It's a Trojan horse.
It's a Trojan horse, but it's also similar. I remember when he was being inaugurated, I saw that Antifa and some other people they'd planned this whole disrupt the inauguration thing, J20 or something they called it. Okay, so I went to their website at the time and I was looking at it. And one of the things they said, one of their goals was that they said they wanted to cause so much chaos and disruption that he had to show himself to be the authoritarian that he really was and be sworn in behind closed doors like the dirty little authoritarian he is. It's like, wait a minute.
Amazing.
So you're forcing him to be sworn in behind closed doors? Doesn't that mean you're on the side of dark, authoritarianism? They don't get it. They're pushing the very thing they claim to be against.
You know what I really can't stand is they do the memes on the political compass. and they
Yeah.
always put Antifa in the bottom left libertarian.
Yeah.
No.
No.
No, Antifa is not, left libertarian are hippies. I always say it, sitting on a farm, sharing the watermelon they just grew. It's hippies smoking pot being like, you want some of my watermelon, bro? Yeah, for sure. Hey, I put up a hammock. You can use it if you want. Thanks. It doesn't work at large scale. It works for a bunch of hippies sitting on a farm. Antifa are authoritarians. They believe in using violence against other people to get what they want. They're enforcing their ideological authority over you with threats of fear and violence.
Yeah.
Trump is not doing that. And they desperately want him to.
They want him to be that.
Now they're complaining he's not. Why didn't he? I was talking to a friend of mine from back in Chicago. He's like, why didn't Trump fix COVID? And I said, well, it's 10th Amendment. I mean, Trump can handle the federal government, and he's done that. He's banned travel. Mm-hmm. He's put out guidance programs, but the states are responsible for what they do. That's why you've got Sunbelt states that have done great. South Dakota done great. Democratic states have failed. And they're like, no, it's Trump's responsibility. He's the one. I'm like, you want him to overrule all the governors and just take over? Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
It's the same old story, right?
Yeah.
Let's read some of the super chats and maybe we'll see if we've got some questions for you.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
So if you haven't already, smash the like button if you would like to help support the channel. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Parler @Timcast. And you can also check out my main channel over at youtube.com/Timcast, where I put up just a regular old straight news video every day at 4 p.m. I got a bunch of channels. But Carrie, do you want to mention your social media before we read super chats?
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter at, it's a weird name, it's KSE Mama Jamma, and Unsafe Space on Twitter, and that's also the name of our podcast on YouTube, Unsafe Space.
Cool. Well, let's read some of the super chats, and I'm sure some of them are going to be funny. Amerido says, keep up the good work, Tim and crew. Appreciate it. Matthew Perkins says, have some funds to keep the left triggered. I will.
Sweet.
Matthew Perkins says, pretty lady in the thumb. Okay, I'll watch. That was a secret. I was like, we're going to do a thumbnail for this just because,
told you,
I didn't have it looked weird. There was no thumbnail. And so we just had Carrie.
We did one of the emojis of the person going, eh.
Well, I was like, you're voting for Trump. How do you feel? And you were like, I don't know. And I'm like, boom, that's it. Yeah. So we got a big super chat here from Epic Monkey. He says, so I can only do donations like this once every 2 weeks. Anyway, I've been considering this far left, far right thing for a while now. I think I found a way to describe it 2 months ago. It's not left or right wings. It's a circle. I'd love to be a guest eventually, have dialogue. Thanks. We did briefly mention this, that some people have drawn a circle and that when you go too far, it just loops back around.
Yeah.
I don't think that's really it. I think you could create a political compass with a third dimension, which would be ideology, I suppose.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the right way to describe it, but the left embracing an ideology has relatively little to do with economic policy to a degree. There's an overlap between them.
Yeah.
Like the left tends to have economic and cultural policy together. But, I saw an interesting speech. I think it was Majid Nawaz. Are you familiar?
Yes, I am. I like
So
him.
he coined the phrase regressive left. And he often says, whether it's left, right, or from the heavens above or something to that effect, referring to fundamentalist religions and ideology. I think what we're looking at with the left is that they've adopted a religion. And so now there's a fundamentalist religion inside what is leftist,
Absolutely.
it's fused together,
Absolutely. It is fundamentalist. They encourage you to cut off contact with family members and friends if they don't convert.
Isn't that literally like a cult behavior?
It is like a cult.
Yeah.
They don't have any tolerance for disagreement.
There is no forgiveness either.
Yeah.
We've got a super chat here from Vato Teporacho. He says, I walked away. Did it in 2015.
Ooh.
Cannot stand censorship and gun grabbers. Grew up in LA, now in rural South Carolina. Loving it.
Hey, that's where I'm from.
There you go. Says, I'm also Hispanic and an immigrant. It's interesting, too. I wonder if... I'm gonna totally play into identity politics right now.
Do it.
If there's any kind of special consideration that's happened to you, because not only are you walking away, but you're a woman, and right now the big thing they're saying is that Trump is struggling with suburban women and housewives. I'm curious if the left has particularly targeted you in relation to your identity, if you know what I mean.
Right now they're heavily targeting black people. Right now they're heavily targeting race. But there are times at which they've heavily targeted gender or sex.
Yeah.
And the other day I turned on Amazon and they gave me some sponsored ad where this guy was telling me all about how like women have it so much harder. and we need to do this and this for women. I'm like, stop
Condescending.
telling me. Yeah, stop telling me how hard I have it, dude. Like, well, you're mansplaining.
Uh-oh.
But
true.
think about the psychology of that. Like, okay, so I went to a science and math high school. It was state funded. If you got in, you got to go. It was more rigorous than Duke, which is where I went to college. And I was so blessed to go for 11th and 12th grade. I probably wouldn't have gone to that science and math school if my whole childhood I had been assaulted with advertising and messaging that's like, women can do science too. Trust us, women are good at science too. I'm like, yeah, of course we are. You know what it does is it puts the question in your head of like, oh, do people think we're not good at science and math?
Right. Who thinks I'm not?
Like, quit assaulting me with that.
I knew a guy, and you know, if he's listening and he hears a story, I'm not trying to drag him, but I'm going to tell the story. It was during Occupy Wall Street, and he was a black guy. He was cool. He's a cool dude. He's still a very cool dude. I don't think he's too far left or anything. He's actually rather rational, but he is on the left. Someone asked him. He was going to the bathroom at McDonald's, and a white dude was like, "Oh, yo, would you mind grabbing me a burger if I gave you some cash while you're over there?" And the dude snapped, just totally snapped. And then I saw this fight break out, like argument, really, not like, I'm not, you know, because they were friends. And when I asked him, yo, what happened? He was like, dude asked me to get him a cheeseburger. And I was like, and what happened?
What?
And he's like, how dare he ask me to get him a cheeseburger? And I was like, don't understand. He tried explaining to me that he's like, listen, man, when a white guy, you know, asks a black guy, hey, go get me a cheeseburger while you're, you know, it's like he's telling you what to do. And I said, I guess I don't understand because, you know, my friends routinely would have been like, oh, if you're going to the store, would you mind picking me up? You know? But to him, it was internalized. It was like he saw racism where there wasn't.
So they tell you to put on these glasses, right? This ideology. You put on these glasses and everything must be viewed through this racial lens or this sex-based lens, this sexism lens. And you start to look in my experience as working in entertainment, right? I used to manage comedians. Did I experience sexism? Yes. But were there also times where I walked into the room and I had this chip on my shoulder and I just assumed everything was sexist, or that happened because I was a woman? Yes. And I did myself a disservice. It hurt my self-esteem. That they don't take into account how much they are hurting the self-esteem of anyone who's not a straight white male.
I'm going to say something totally offensive too.
Yeah.
Think about what happens if you hire someone who's not qualified because of their, you know, token characteristic.
Yeah.
And you'll end up in a meeting where you have a bunch of people giving ideas. The woman who was hired only because she's a woman, not because of her skills, will give a bad idea. And then all the guys are going to be like, that was kind of a bad idea. And she's going to say, because I'm a woman.
Yeah.
They disregard my opinion. Now, I'm not saying that's every circumstance. I'm pretty confident there are a lot of sexist guys who, you know, would disregard women for sure, because I've experienced guys like that. But I think it's also fair to say these things will come up as well.
Yeah, and it makes things harder for women. I mean, one really common thing on Twitter lately is I've seen people at conferences saying, oh, I won't be on a panel, like men, these heroic social justice men are like, I won't be on a panel unless you add a woman.
Yeah, I
Screw
know.
you. I don't want to be the woman that got on the panel because I'm a woman.
Because a guy complained.
Yeah.
A man complained, so they shoved me
Yes.
on. No, I'm
Wonderful.
sorry.
No.
Who's really
Yeah.
in charge?
Right.
No, and they make it so that that people start to say, oh, I guess you got this because of your sex, because of your race. And why are people asking that question? Because you're showing us you do it. Joe Biden just did it.
I know. That's so messed up. He shouldn't have said it.
Right.
You know, Bernie Sanders was smart. He's like, I'll look into it. You know, I'll consider it. We got this one here from Shu Shirako. He says, I've lost all hope for the world. We walk in thick waters. The inhuman industries live like the remoras hiding under sharks. Thankfully, the HSL finished a dozen from deep waters as Trump and Barr venture towards the Meg, giant shark. I don't know what that's reference
This is
to.
an analogy I'm not grasping
Yeah, me
fully.
neither.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sylvain R. Carrison wants us to smash the bubble and spin the UFO.
Oh,
I don't know what the bubble is, but I can spin the UFO. This is
Wow.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't teach you how to do that before we started. I'm
I
sorry.
think we have to have the guests
failed
do
you.
it. I think it's
Okay.
well,
This
it's
is pretty cool.
it's spinning now. Yeah, you just point it at the UFO
You just hold it down.
off to the angle a little bit.
Okay.
And
So this is YouTube's cool with this.
all right, wait.
Oh.
Yep. It's when it's wobbling.
Yeah,
you
we
know,
gotta-
Then you're good. It's good. It's spinning. It's
Okay,
spinning. The UFO is
Perfect. It
spinning
has
very
been
fast.
spun.
Let's see. Logan Barnett says, "Love the stream, Miss Adam. Will you wear the MAGA beanie of absolute power for 40K likes?" No MAGA beanie for me. I mean, you know, you're more than welcome to wear a MAGA beanie.
I don't have a MAGA beanie.
We have
Sorry.
so we got a couple beanies sent in. One was "Make America Just Okay," and the other was "Make America Okay," I guess.
Yes.
Those were jokes. They were just really, really funny.
Enthusiasm. Yeah.
I have a shirt that says "Make Democrats Liberal Again."
Oh.
I wish.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But it's like we were saying early on. I wonder if they were ever actually liberal, or
Yeah.
were they just whispering sweet nothings into our ears? And I kind of woke up to that. I think.
I don't know.
I don't think they were. Bernie Sanders, you see, he flipped.
He did. I voted for him in 2016,
Yep.
but I couldn't vote for him this time because he started speaking woke.
You know, he spoke woke on the stage at the debate when he said white people don't know what it's like to be poor or
Yeah.
live in a ghetto. And that, to me, when he said that, I was like, what? You kidding me?
Wait a minute. I thought that was Joe Biden that said that.
It was Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
Bernie Sanders said that.
But I know there were other instances where I heard him speaking it suddenly, and
Now he's just totally gone on board for this weird, DSA stuff. And so when I see him, he's he doesn't say millionaires anymore, right?
No, I didn't know that.
He used to say the millionaires and the billionaires. Then he became a millionaire. Now it's just the billionaires.
Just the
No joke. There was actually, I think it was a New York Times journalist said, here's the exact moment Bernie Sanders removed the phrase millionaires from his, his speeches and stuff. And it coincides with his breaking $1 million.
At least he's
Wow.
a
Or
little
something
self-aware.
like that. It's something I saw on Twitter. But you go to his website, it just says billionaires.
the million and a half years.
As soon as he got in the club, it was a 180.
Keys
Wow.
to the castle, man.
Yeah. The Glenn Weldon says, really enjoying the new format. Having guests gives a fresh voice and new opinions every day. Can't wait to hear what Jack has to say. Jack Murphy's awesome. And it's really interesting because Jack mentioned this. He tweeted it. We did a podcast earlier this year, and apparently we predicted a bunch of what happened.
Oh,
Because we were
cool.
talking about all this stuff and Democrats are deplorable. And then we had a conversation that I guess made predictions. So
Is this all our
yeah.
fault?
No, I think I think there is a reality to the things you're saying and the things I'm saying that's based in logic and reason. And if you follow those paths, you are more likely to be able to predict what might happen
What's going to
next.
happen? Because you're not watching. At least you're not watching the wrong movie anymore. Like Scott Adams talks about the two movies.
Right.
So many
Two
people are
movies on the
watching-
same screen.
On the same screen.
I posted this on Instagram. It was, Fox News says Sondland confirms no quid pro quo. And this was the Ukraine gate. And then on CBS or something, it says Sondland confirms quid pro quo.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Depending on the source, you got different news. That to me is nuts.
Yeah.
And then the media says, Fox News is lying. Fox was actually right. Sondland literally said there was no quid pro quo ever stated to me, but I assumed it. The leftist media said, oh, therefore it was. And Fox said, well, he just said it was never told to him, so therefore it wasn't. His assumption is irrelevant, It's amazing.
And it's like Orwell. Oceania's always been at war with East Asia.
yeah.
Oceania's not at war with East Asia. It's just whatever the latest thing is they've said, that's the truth now.
Yep.
Have you ever seen the show Avatar, the Airbender?
The movie?
No, well, it was a Nickelodeon show. They made a really crappy movie.
No, I haven't. Sorry.
But there's a meme, and it's there is no war in Ba Sing Se.
Okay.
And
They
it was
hypnotize people.
because there was a war going on. When people would go to the city, they didn't want anyone to know about the war because it disrupted the economy. So they would hypnotize people and say there is no war. And so it's a meme. You'll see it online. People say things like that.
Yeah.
Yethna P says there is a perfect guest for you who is hilarious and engaging on podcasts and talks about culture war and SJW control of comics as an artist who got canceled by DC and SJWs, and he lives in New Jersey. What's your email? My email ready to send. Love y'all. Spin the UFO at gmail.com.
gmail.com. I'll look at it for sure.
Brandy Yeager says, people, Adam has his own show now, and Tim can do this show with guests like he envisioned. I probably support both. Keep up the great work. Much love. Adam is literally in the other room. He's doing his show. He's got a new setup and everything. He's killing it. He broke 100K subs, and
Wow.
he's doing amazing. Yeah,
That's cool.
We're bringing guests on, and it's just these things happen, I guess. But he's great. He's going to be wildly successful, and we're all friends hanging out like nothing's really changed. Except for the show. A Wild Deku says, hey, Tim, there was a shootout between police and 300 people in Philadelphia. I can't tell if that means things are getting worse because of the violence or because there are police. I think it was there 300 people there, but I don't know the full details of the story.
I gotta look into that.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
It was pretty crazy. Yep. Cloudy Commentary says, Portland liberals for Trump 2020.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Look, I like the liberals for Trump thing. That really bothers them for some reason. Well, good. You're not going to redefine liberal.
They hate liberals. They
do hate liberals.
Yeah.
I've seen
Leftists.
those Antifa spray painted things that say
Yep.
liberals get the bullet too.
I made a gag shirt that was the revolution fist, but holding a bike lock. Do you know about the bike lock bash?
I do, yeah.
The bike lock.
Eric Clapton.
Yes,
Clapton,
Clapton. So I took the revolution fist and I put a bike lock in it with a sunburst behind it, and it said liberals get the bike lock too.
Wow.
And I got in trouble. YouTube got really mad at me.
Spicy.
But that's
Yeah.
truth.
Well, I was satirizing the violence.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
trying to mock them for
Yeah.
bashing people and for attacking liberals. And they perceived it as a literal call to bashing
Oh,
liberals.
they wanted to perceive it that way.
Yep.
Well, okay. All right, I got to put this in here.
Yeah.
Teespring has been very good about telling Antifa, you are not going to put violent slogans on our T-shirts. We will
Well,
not
that's
sell them
good.
for you. So in that way, I think that at least it's consistent
Yeah,
for
okay.
being able to say, no, liberals don't get the bike lock too. Sorry.
Well,
Tim.
Teespring recently emailed me saying that the shirt's been removed
That one?
because the shirt was still on the account,
Uh-huh.
but it wasn't on YouTube or anywhere visible.
Mm-hmm.
And so they recently were like, we know you're not using it, but
It's gone.
we're gone.
Yeah.
Someone said Laura Loomer won.
She did.
Laura Loomer
She won by 42%.
By 42%.
She won 42% of the vote.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
Wow.
Well,
Congratulations,
it was
Laura
small.
Loomer.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was a small, like a little election. I think she won.
Well, but there's a lot of competition there.
She had like a bunch of different competition.
Yeah.
So I'm
Are you
really
familiar with
curious
Laura
what
Loomer?
happens now.
I am familiar with her. I know
She
that
won a
she's one of the
primary.
unpersoned
She was
people.
canceled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's I always tell people I'm not here to say, I don't agree or agree with the ideology or whatever, but I will say they underestimate Laura Loomer across like it's to an absurd degree. They make fun of her, they underestimate her, they ban her, but she keeps winning. It's almost like Trump in that
It
regard.
is. I was going to say it's like Trump.
Yep.
Oh, you know what?
Those compilation videos where they were laughing at Ann Coulter for saying Trump was going to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, so she won the district where Mar-a-Lago is, which is probably why she won. And Matt Gaetz endorsed her earlier this morning. I saw that.
Wow.
It says she has decisively won the primary for the U.S. House of Representatives. She did controversial things, and I don't really care about her views, but good for her because she was totally canceled from all social media.
Yep.
And she made this
And
happen.
she still did it.
That's-
really
and that's-
impressive.
She knows
She worked.
how to she knows how the system works.
Yeah.
So I think she's tweeted some I roll at the things she's tweeted,
Yeah.
but she's winning. If she wins, this is a D+9 district where she is.
Yeah, I believe so.
Wow. If
dude.
she gets in, it is going to be, and she is a sharp personality to say the least. Her up against the squad, it's going to make for some spicy C-SPAN videos.
This also brings up an interesting question. What if all the people that they've tried to unperson, and I think you could say fairly that the people they went after were those who were very influential in the last election and had big followings. It wasn't that they were the most extreme or awful. Like, I was just at an event where Milo spoke, and he was rightfully pointing out that Richard Spencer still has a Twitter account. David Duke still has a Twitter account. But they took out the people who were influential and who were making a difference. And so what if all those unpersoned people ran for office? Would they have to give them all their accounts back if they win?
I personally think yes, but they banned. I think there was an account being run by someone else for Laura Loomer, and they banned it. They did the
Really?
same thing with Sargon of Akkad. Yeah, it's like you're unpersoned, and that's why they want they have this dominance over the conversation. But that's why I bring up Laura Loomer and full disclosure carefully because she has been controversial in a lot of ways, but to point out you can't stop people. You try and cancel them, unperson them, and then they all gloat and laugh like it's the most annoying thing when these Twitterati lefties are like, you see, banning people works. Laura Loomer wins her primary. It's like, no, you just don't see what she's doing anymore.
She's in the dark now.
Like the people on Twitter are.
Yeah.
The people on Twitter have closed their blinders and are acting like they're literally children covering their ears and eyes and going, I can't see you, I can't see you.
Yeah.
It's not happening. She's still out there doing her thing. She has like 700,000 followers on Parler.
Yeah.
They don't get it.
I think she's on Telegram too.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
You ban people who are determined, and now you just don't know. I'm going to stop here and make this very important point. I really can't stand this conspiracy theory the left brings up all the time at all these protests. Our phones aren't working. The police are jamming our phones again. I swear, every protest I've ever been to, I've heard the same thing. My phone stopped working because the police are jamming us. No. Your phone stopped working because there are too many people in one area and the police want to spy on you So they want your phone to work. So they bring in these big trucks with mobile mobile cell antennas to increase the capacity so they can spy on you. The reason why? They need to know what you're doing, thinking, and saying so they can counter what you're doing.
Yep.
These woke Twitterati people who are like, ban, Laura. Well, now she's still doing everything. You just don't know what she's doing.
Under the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
They're
I mean,
not
it's in real life.
Yes, exactly.
In real life. Let's see. Natalie says, I attended the Better Discourse event, and it's definitely one of the highlights of my year. I don't know if you remember me, Carrie, but I asked about wearing a MAGA hat during your panel. Love your work, Tim. Keep it up.
Yeah. I will say, let me give a shout out to those guys, Mythicist Milwaukee. They put the event on. They did a great job of bringing in some progressives, even people who have social justice views that I find awful.
Yep.
But those people were, much like the civility dinners I mentioned before, they were willing to discuss.
I love it.
And I
Right.
have to say, props to you for coming in and sitting down and discussing. And we met some really cool people who I disagree with on the majority of things, but they still here's what we still believe in.
Yeah.
Discourse, free speech, conversation,
Love it.
You know what happened when I did an event with them, very similar, out here. Antifa came from outside the area, threatened to burn down the theater.
Wow.
And so the theater canceled on us at the 11th hour. We had to move it across the river to Philadelphia, to the casino. And it was funny. These Antifa people were saying, we won't allow these people to come into our neighborhoods. And I said, y'all came from 45 minutes away. I live here.
Yeah.
The casino is like 5 miles. Not the casino. The original venue is only a few miles from my house.
Yeah.
So I was trying to put on a local event. Daryl Davis was the headliner.
Yes.
The famous...
My friend Mike Harlow was there, I think. He told me about this. And
Yep.
they were calling Daryl Davis, the black guy who pulled people out of the Klan.
They called him a white supremacist.
Yes.
Amazing. So amazing.
What a truly... I'm laughing at the absurdity, It's
At
like...
the absurdity, yeah.
It's like you got to have a sense of humor about these things, you know what I mean? Like,
Upside down world.
yo. Let's see. What do we got here? Dylan Kelly says, found out who tore down Frederick Douglass statue here in Rochester. It was a few dumb guys who just saw a statue and assumed it was another white guy. Our mayor having nothing to do with BLM. Nothing to do with BLM or Antifa. So was it BLM or Antifa or?
But this is what happens with anything like this. They're going to start tearing down. They already defaced a Stevie Ray Vaughan statue.
That's right.
Jimi Hendrix.
They don't know what they
They
are.
don't know what
Oh
the
my
hell.
gosh.
Yeah.
They're not
They're
even
going to start
humans.
pulling down, Susan B. Anthony. Are there any Susan B. Anthony statues?
I'm sure there
People
are.
have
Should
joked
be.
she's coming down next
Seriously.
because she
Oh,
Trump
man.
supported her.
Right. I saw Glenn Lowry make this point. I just want to say this quick. We were talking about this earlier. Martin Luther King Jr., okay? Misogynist.
Right.
Philanderer. And yet, look what he did for this country. Look at the ideas that he gave us. Look at individualism, how he pushed that idea forward. Look at what he was able to help us do as a society. Should you take his statue down? No.
Of course not.
But we're living in a place where I really believe they're going to start pulling his statue down eventually, too.
Totally.
Oh, for sure.
Because where
100%.
does this stop?
When they started tearing down Confederate statues, my complaint was, hey, that's dangerous, and we should have a conversation. You shouldn't just destroy something you don't like. Then and I mean, that's the very... I said, look, I actually think they should come down. I would vote to put them in a museum, have them preserved, protected, and collected, and we could explain what they mean and what they are. And in their stead, we put a plaque. I think that's the appropriate way we deal with it because I don't agree with them. But I think you have to ask the community, and if the community says we're keeping it, well then it's not my community. Or if I'm voted out, that's the way democratic processes work.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
Now they're tearing down everybody.
Yeah.
They're defacing Jesus and Mary.
Yeah.
That's to me like, wow. But of course, Sean King said Jesus is white supremacy and all that stuff.
I saw him say that. Yeah.
And it's crazy to me to see the church embracing a lot of this.
The church is a very interesting place where social justice ideology is now spreading.
I wish I could talk to you about that because that is so interesting to me.
Wait, can you? AOC just nominated Bernie at the DNC. Says world's oldest millennial.
What?
Yeah,
Okay,
can you fact check that real quick?
Otto.
Otto Rommel says, if you need brain surgery, do you want the best black LGBT woman brain surgeon or the best surgeon?
Yep.
With sexist, racist college hiring preferences, how can that not put a cloud over all preference groups in people's minds? Absolutely. And that's unfair.
Yeah.
They are creating racist systems, and it's on purpose.
Yeah.
They want you to question people based on their race,
They
quite
do.
literally. And so that you're going to get a doctor, and instead of thinking this is the best person for me, you're going to be, oh no, is this a diversity hire? That's what they want.
Yeah, and it's gonna hurt women, and it's gonna hurt people of color, except for Asian people, because then you'll be like, give me the Asian male doctor, because I know he had to be really extra good to get in. They would have kicked him out, discriminated.
And now the Asian male doctors get all the business. So
that's how that works. So I actually this reminded me of an old story from a long time ago when I worked in a rehab center helping people recover from surgeries. So this guy, I thought that he was really, really racist at first because he was very educated. He had been to medical school, and he told me, I will never have an African American doctor. And I was like, what? Why? And he's like, it is easier for them to get in. They do not have to work as hard. And I was like, you sound really racist, bro, but that's not cool, because that means that these doctors are already African American doctors are at a disadvantage because people might assume that it was easy for them to get in
on purpose.
Exactly.
They are purposefully creating that system to create the racism.
That's racism.
They need the boogeyman to make money off of, to gain power, so they want more of it.
And sexism too. And
Absolutely.
people second guess women now all the time too, and it's for that same reason. Well, did she get in because she was a woman?
Yep.
And they want to increase the number of women in STEM, you know.
No fan. I don't think any of us are.
Cool.
That's kind of the point of the whole conversation. But we have gone over about 15 minutes. We only do a couple hours. So I think we're So again, do you want to shout out your social media accounts and channels and stuff?
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter at KSE Mama Jamma, or Unsafe Spaces, my podcast. Hello, Carter. And or you can go to unsafespace.com. We're on YouTube, and we have a book club. That's kind of fun. We do something a little different. We do a book a month if you want to join our book club.
Cool.
I love that.
Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah. So and thanks to everybody for watching. Before you go, if you want to hit the like button, subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. And we're going to be with Jack Murphy, who literally wrote the book on leaving the Democratic Party and becoming a deplorable. That's going to be really fun. And make sure you check out youtube.com/Timcast and youtube.com/Timcast News. Those are also both of my channels. I'm assuming many of you are familiar. If you're not, these are the channels where I just do my solo, conversation rants or whatever. But check out and subscribe to youtube.com/Timcast. I'm really close to breaking 1 million subs. Like 25,000 more people, and I get my
awesome
goal. I'm just hoping it happens before I get banned.
We need that plan.
And the election's coming up, so I'm like, please, subscribe.
Let's do it. Yeah.
But everybody, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the super chats. We will be back tomorrow, and also, don't forget, you can follow at Sour Patch Lids.
You can follow me. It's not there anymore.
It's not there anymore.
I know, but it's Sour Patch Lids on Twitter and Parler and stuff.
Sour Patch Lids, LYDS. And for the last time, we will see you all tomorrow at 8 p.m. live with Jack Murphy. Adios, everybody.
Bye, guys.